You can recover your eyesight at any age. One day I wake up seeing double and very blurry. After 2 months, my eyesight was back to being perfect. No exercises, no chemicals, just introspection. Had I bought the glasses at that time, probably I would be wearing glasses now. When you start wearing glasses, your eyesight gets worse and worse.
So many of us in the holistic health space are adamant about getting to the root cause of various issues. When it comes to eyesight, there isn't any questioning of the root cause.
The experience of seeing is produced in the neocortex, in the brain. The eyes are extremely sensitive to our emotions and they can tense up very quickly. Ray Charles became blind after he saw his younger brother die in front of his very eyes. We want a society with people that see the world clearly. Most people aren't aware that there's a silent pandemic of eyesight issues.
I know it. Is it annoying that people get your name wrong all the time? English speakers?
I usually live in the Spanish-speaking world, so most of the time I hear my name right, but I've lived in France for a very, very long time and some time in the United States. And yeah, I've heard my name pronounced and written in various ways, and I guess you get used to it and you just smile when it happens. That's okay.
Is it a common name in Spanish-speaking countries?
Not at all.
Really?
No. Last time I checked, there were like 700 Ainhoas. Probably there's many more now because it's become kind of a trendy name. There's a famous Spanish opera singer and now a famous pop singer. So now there's more girls being called Ainhoa because of those two. But it's not a very common name, no.
Okay. What does it mean?
In Basque, it's a Basque name. It means swallow, the bird that comes in the spring and always comes back home. So that's the main meaning. Now, I've discovered that the sounds Ainhoa mean other beautiful things in other languages. My favorite is probably in Japanese. It means circle of love. In Finnish, it means the only one or the only. In Hebrew, it means the eyes of the source.
Wow.
So all of the meanings are actually really nice.
Really spot on for what you talk about and what you're trained in.
And we were talking about how a trick to remember in English, it's either I know a girl called Ainhoa or I Noah. So Noah is a name. So you would put those two together and it works too.
What was the Japanese meaning again?
Circle of love.
Circle of love. That's also interesting because that also relates to the eyes for me because people say eyes are the windows to the soul.
Absolutely.
Right? And the soul is where the deepest essence of our love is stored. So that's really interesting. A lot of multiple meanings in a lot of the translations.
Yeah, and I've had the feeling that going through life was discovering different aspects of the meaning of my name and actually opening up to those dimensions of life. And I'm very happy that you started the conversation speaking about the meaning in Japanese and connecting with the eyes being the windows to the soul, because I firmly believe in that sentence, not just as a metaphorical, beautiful idea, which it is, but it literally is true. And one of the main points in my research and one of the things that I love to talk about the most is how your way of seeing reflects your way of being. And there's research on this since like 1958 about what specific traumas, hidden emotions, or unexpressed emotions that you've had around traumatic situations where you shifted your way of being. And that correlates like almost to the second to the moment that the eyesight declined. And there's specific kinds of situations and specific kinds of emotions that are tied and linked to specific eyesight symptoms. So people who experience cataracts don't have the same issues that people who experience nearsightedness or myopia, or the people that experience farsightedness or that need reading glasses. The hidden emotions behind those symptoms are different. And when you know about them and you can see them, then you have an extra tool to not only get rid of the eyesight problem, which is, of course, the practical thing that people are looking for, but even to go deeper and live a more profound truth, be who you are, and from being authentic, actually be a lot happier. So one of the things that I love about this work, helping people to see clearly, is that it not only allows them to see clearly from the eyes towards the outside, but it allows them to see clearly from the eyes towards the inside. And it's an extremely powerful transformational work.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what led you to research and come to understand all the problems with eyesight to begin with?
It's a story that has several phases, but I understand that we have time. So,
We have time.
so we can talk about it. Okay. Well, first I was born with strabismus, which means that my eyes were crossed with a lazy eye. And my parents tell me that I had a very high myopia, and probably they got it wrong. It's likely that it would be a high hyperopia, because it's very uncommon for kids to be nearsighted. What's common is to be farsighted. Anyway, that's what they told me. And when I was 6 months old, it was very clear that my eyesight was very bad. And they talked to my grandfather, who was a very well-known at the time neurosurgeon in Spain, and he was very well connected to many very good doctors in the country. So it must have been around Christmas or something. They brought me to my grandfather. Very worried because of my crossing eyes, etc. And so my grandfather advised that we go visit an ophthalmologist that was a specialist for children's strabismus. And this professor at the university and researcher advised what years later I understood were practices of natural vision improvement. So she advised a series of covering the eyes, but not all day, just certain times a day, one eye, the other eye, and then doing specific kinds of stimulations that my parents applied very diligently. I was there, but I have my parents to thank for that. And by the time I was 1 year old, my eyesight was perfect.
Wow.
No crossed eyes, no amblyopia, no lazy eye, and I could see very well at all the distances. And interestingly, this is one of the 3 stories that my parents have chosen to tell me at all my birthdays. Again, I'm the lucky recipient of that happening. They told me about how I was born like this, and I was very hairy, and this and that, like all the 2 or 3 funny stories. And then this thing about improving my eyesight in my first year of existence. And because this story kept coming up at my birthday every time, it kind of became something that was a structural part of my identity. Like, I am someone who, one of the first things I achieved in life was to improve my eyesight. So I kind of was born into the idea that eyesight can be improved, and it was one of the first things that I did. And also, I would remark that my parents and people around me would always be impressed by the very good quality of my eyesight. They would be very impressed how far I could see well, how little details I could see well. I could see well during the day and at night. So I kind of was lucky to, I don't know if you use this expression in English, but in French, are you familiar with Asterix, Obélix? Okay, they're like a French cartoon, and Obélix falls into the pot of the magic potion. And so he's very strong for life. And he's one of the heroes of the story. So I was kind of born falling into the pot of the magic, in the sense of learning how to improve my eyesight and having very good eyesight, because I was taught how to have it being very little. So fast forward, I'm very happy with my very good eyesight. And when I was 23, in my early 20s, I went to study to France. I have actually lived in France for over 20 years, and I had most of my academic career in the French university system. But we're talking about the second year I was in France. So I was in my early 20s, a baby still. And one day I wake up seeing double and very blurry. And honestly, I freaked out. Called my mom in the north of Spain in panic at 8 a.m. She's like, "Why are you calling at this time?" I'm like, "Well, I don't see well. I see double. I see very blurry." And she panicked even more than me. She's like, "Well, don't call me. Call a doctor. Call an eye doctor. I cannot do anything for you 1,000 of kilometers away." Okay, so you can see how old this story is, because I picked the yellow pages. I mean, we're not even talking about the internet, Google, ChatGPT.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I picked the yellow pages, started turning the pages, looking at the eye doctors. And because I was in France for relatively not long, I didn't have a good recommendation for a doctor. I didn't think about calling my friends. And I was so in panic that I just called whomever could see me first. And probably that was not a very good idea. You probably don't want to go to empty restaurants. If they're empty, there's a reason.
Right.
But anyway, in panic, here I am going to the first appointment of the first doctor that's available. And so I arrive that same evening. It was winter, so it was cold. And the appointment was in a dark building, not a lot of lighting. It was kind of gloomy. Anyway, and have you been in situations when you don't yet know if you can sit down or you're supposed to stay up because nobody's like telling you anything or looking at you?
Just
It's very awkward and uncomfortable. Do I talk? Do I wait? Anyway, so it was that kind of very uncomfortable situation. And I'm mentioning all these things because they may seem irrelevant, but all these kinds of factors play on eyesight. If there's light or there isn't light, if you're feeling stressed or tense or if you're comfortable, all these things. Anyway, so finally, I understand that I can speak and it's my turn. And so I tell this eye doctor that the day before I'm seeing perfectly as usual. And I wake up seeing double and very blurry. And my first question is, what's the cause? What has happened? I was getting ready to go into a career with research. So when you do research, you ask questions all the time. So this eye doctor, the question goes in one ear, out the other one. He doesn't care about giving me any explanation or anything to understand. He just sits me into a machine to look at letters and numbers of different sizes. And he keeps changing lenses until I say that I see kind of the best. I wasn't even seeing well. And so he writes on a piece of paper that I have so many diopters of myopia and astigmatism and double vision. And I'm like, okay, but why didn't I have any of that yesterday and I have them today? No answers, no interest in even asking himself an answer for that or a reason for that. He just sends me off to buy glasses. And I'm here with this document saying that I should wear glasses now for life, where the day before I could see perfectly. So if you're a little bit curious, you understand that something has happened between the 2 days that is the cause for the effect. And if you find what the cause is, you can get rid of the effect. So very puzzled and shocked, I paid him the consultation. I went out the door. And the minute I was out of his sight, I tear the paper, put it to the trash, and reminded myself that I am a person who sees very well, far and near, day and night. I mean, the identity that I had grown with.
Did you have any familiarity with psychosomatics or like biology of belief at that point?
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about that at that point.
It's cool you had the foresight to do that though.
Exactly. Yeah. I've told myself so many times how lucky I was that I had grown this strong identity of someone who sees clearly, because most people don't have it. And most people believe that eyesight goes down the drain with age and it's genetic and all kinds of limiting beliefs that are at best maybe partially true, but not really true. And we'll talk about those too. So I was so lucky to have grown this certainty about my eyesight and to throw the prescription to the trash, because had I bought the glasses at that time, probably I would be wearing glasses now. Because when you start wearing glasses, the eyes adapt and your eyesight gets worse and worse progressively. That's the case for 75% of people.
If you frequently tune into the Way Forward podcast, don't skip this one. This is personal. If you've ever felt a shift from something that you've heard on this podcast, if it's helped you to see things more clearly, if it's helped you to break down a limiting belief system, if it's helped you just to generally question, or if it's helped you to feel less alone, then I'm asking you from my heart to help us keep going. We're not backed by corporate sponsors, venture capital money, or big donors, and that has been a deliberate choice. And we've said no to a lot of ad deals that weren't aligned because we don't want our mission to be shaped by products, brands, and agendas that we don't actually believe in. There are a few trusted brands and products that do support us, and we're incredibly grateful for that. But the reality is, this is primarily sustained by our listeners and viewers. Right now, this podcast has roughly 140,000 video and audio downloads a month, and it's continuing to grow. And only a small fraction of that actually help contribute financially. That's not a guilt trip, it's just the reality. We haven't said this directly enough, so here it is. If you'd like this podcast to continue, please help support us by becoming a member of thewayforward.com. If even a small fraction of listeners and viewers chose to support, we'd be able to easily sustain this. A membership at thewayforward.com is $99 annually, which amounts to about $8 a month. Think of it like a couple organic kombuchas at your local health food store, or maybe a fancy latte every month. And also think of it like this. In addition to ensuring that we can continue, you're actively supporting yourself in the process. TheWayForward.com is a private membership platform that allows you to instantly connect with aligned people, practitioners, farms, schools, restaurants, and more in your local area. And if the platform isn't for you, we've added a donation option as well. You'll find both of those in the show notes. If you've received something from the show, please consider giving back by becoming a member so we can continue to reach people, not just as a podcast, but as a movement for something good, true, and beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for walking this path with us. Can I share something real quick?
Yes, of course.
So I didn't wear glasses until I was 22, and I had perfect eyesight really up until that point when I went to a university here called the United States Military Academy, which is a very prestigious university. I majored in systems engineering. In one semester, for example, I don't know if in Europe you have what's called credit hours to like show how many. Yeah. So in one semester, I was taking 23 and a half credit hours just to like give an idea of how rigorous my academic schedule was. And that's when I started wearing glasses. And my eyes, yes, a lot of pressure, like lack of sleep, lots of stress, pretty much all the time as a cadet at West Point. And my eyesight just got progressively worse and worse. And it's really interesting as I went to an ophthalmologist a few months ago to get my eyes checked and also get more contacts just because I still play sports. And right now with the way my eyes currently are, if I am going to play sports well at all, unfortunately I have to wear contacts, but that's like the only time I wear them. And then when I'm sitting on this podcast, other than that, I try not to wear them at all. That being said, I brought that exact same thing you said up to the ophthalmologist, that once you start wearing glasses, your eyes get progressively worse. She's like, there's no evidence to back that up.
There is evidence of that. Let me remember the name of the researcher. If I don't recall him exactly right now, I will give you the reference afterwards. But he's a researcher at MIT. I think that's a solid institution for research. And he has shown how when you're wearing glasses for nearsightedness, for myopia, the myopia tends to progress. Some of the optometrists that are part of our community of holistic vision and natural vision improvement, Dr. Mark Grossman, he was a regular optometrist before he transitioned into holistic vision and natural vision improvement. And in his practice, what he observed was that 75% of people that started wearing glasses, their eyesight would get worse over time. So
I believe it.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
That's your experience too. That's the experience of a lot of the people who come to my classes and workshops. If I may go back to the story, to my story.
Yes, please.
And
sorry,
there's going, no, it's perfect. And there's going to be a lot of conversations branching out. And we'll get back to those at a later time too, because maybe there are things that I could invite you to explore if you want to have other options and not need glasses. But anyway, so I was very lucky to have this strong belief in my own eyesight. Threw the prescription to the trash, went back home. I was still seeing blurry and double. And arriving home, I don't remember if some friend called me by chance or I called someone to vent and express my frustration about the experience I just had. But the thing is, I find myself in this conversation with a friend and she's telling me, well, yeah, I understand you're frustrated. The doctor didn't listen to you. He didn't care for finding out what was going on. Just gives you glasses with no explanation. She's like, maybe you can talk to my family doctor. He's a generalist. He's not an ophthalmologist. But the one thing I can promise you is that he will listen to you. He will explore and he will see what he can find. He will try to find a reason or what happened. I'm like, okay, I'm good for that. That's good enough for me. So the next day, I was still seeing blurry and double. I have an appointment with this family doctor. I had the appointment earlier in the day. And miracle, because in the north of France, honestly, it's basically raining and gray all the time. But that day, the sun was out. It was really sunny. The office of this doctor was had a big open window, had lots of bright colors, cushions. It was cozy. It was welcoming. He was very attentive from the start. I'm mentioning these things also because it might have been a coincidence, but these kinds of things also play for good eyesight. Having good eyes, good sunlight or light, bright colors, beautiful things to see, being in a warm environment, being considered, all these things play for good eyesight. Anyway, I find myself with the second doctor. He listens to me very carefully. And before saying anything about what may have happened, like a good doctor takes his time to explore my face, etc. And after a moment of looking at various things and checking my eyes and all of that, he's like, young lady, what you have is sinusitis. And because your sinuses are inflamed, they're pressing on the eyeball. And once the eyeball is under pressure, that creates refractive errors, like astigmatism, like farsightedness or nearsightedness. So that's where I learned about this in this, the first idea about natural vision improvement that I consciously learned came from this consultation with this doctor. And so, okay, if the eyeball is under pressure, there could be various factors that put an eyeball under pressure. In my case, it was sinusitis. If you're under a lot of stress because you have to study for exams, a lot of credits at the university, probably it's the muscles around the eyes that are tense themselves because of the stress.
Especially being on screens quite a bit, which I want to talk about as well.
That happens also too. Yeah. Anyway, so for me, it was a sinusitis. If that's the cause, what's the solution? Antibiotics. 7 days of antibiotics. And once I took them at the end of the week, no problem anymore. Actually, that's what the doctor told me. Take the antibiotics. If after a week you're fine, don't come again. And if you need something else, well, come back and we'll see if we can do something else. I never saw that doctor again, and I don't even know what his name is. And nowadays I would like to find him and really thank him because, I didn't need to buy those glasses. My eyesight was back to perfect. And I remember thinking, what if I didn't have this strong identity and I had bought the glasses? Again, I probably would be wearing them up to today. And number two, how many people may there be out there who had some tension around their eyeballs, whatever the reason for the tension was. And if the first person they got to told them to put glasses, now they're wearing glasses where they probably didn't need to. If they had done something to release the tension, whatever was compressing the eyeball, if they would let go of that, then the eyeball can see well by itself.
You know what's so interesting, real quick, is so many of us in the holistic health space are adamant about getting to the root cause of various issues. But maybe I can only speak for myself here, but I'd imagine it's the same for many people in the holistic health space, is when it comes to eyesight, there isn't any questioning of the root cause. It's just like, oh, this is how it goes. And we just throw glasses on instead of questioning, why is my eyesight declining?
It's so interesting. I've had students that had other professions before, of course, like physiotherapists or osteopathists, people who practice osteopathy. They are used to training all kinds of muscles all over the body and to release tension all over the body. And very often they won't ask themselves about the eyes, as if the eyes were an exception for the body or how health works. And I don't know, it may be also because we're so visual, we actually identify so much with what we see that we don't pay attention at the organ of eyesight. It sounds paradoxical, but it also kind of makes sense.
We overlook the eyes.
Exactly.
That's so interesting. Wow, yeah. That's really interesting.
Anyway, so I was very happy not to have, for the second time, not to have to wear glasses and to have my eyesight, my perfect, clear eyesight back. But at that time, I was on to other projects. So this was kind of an interesting thing that happened. And I went on with my studies in sociology and doing research on something else. And then in my early 30s, by that time, I was already a tenured professor at the university. I was at the time at the University of Barcelona, the Autonomous University of Barcelona, as a guest researcher. And I was taking care of editing a special issue for a scientific journal, International Sociology. So when you do that, you have to read a lot of articles very quickly and redispatch them to evaluators and run behind them so that they evaluate the articles and then read the articles again, etc., etc. Anyway, so because there was a lot of work with reading and evaluating, I printed all the articles in the smallest print possible, like double page per page. And I started realizing that I couldn't read the articles, like my arm was not long enough to read the articles. And then when I was in the subway in Barcelona, I couldn't also read the names of the stops and the the subway lines and things like that. So I was like, okay, third time that I'm having eyesight issues, but by now I know that you can leave them behind, you can heal from them. And at that time, I had already spent 5 years being very interested in body-mind connections and the psychosomatic questions and the emotional cause or the inner cause of the outside symptom. I had started being interested in that for other reasons, allergies and back problems, and it had worked very well for me. So I'm like, okay, I've been researching or being interested in this aspect of how health works, and I have the proof that eyesight can improve because I've done it already twice in my past. How about this time I take this approach and see if it also works for my eyesight? So I went to an ophthalmologist to have a diagnosis. I knew that my intention was not to buy glasses, but to give myself time to do this inner work. But I wanted to know the name of the symptoms so I could fine-tune into what's the message, what's the meaning. So I went to this ophthalmologist in Lille, in the north of France, and she told me that I had developed presbyopia, the need for reading glasses, which at 30, not so much. It's kind of crazy. That's supposed to be a symptom that arrives, quote, quote, with age. Also a myth. But anyway, that's what's common. So I felt like a horse had fallen on me and like I got 20 years extra. And I had developed astigmatism again. Okay, she gave me a prescription for glasses for presbyopia and astigmatism. And this time I kept it. I told myself, I gave myself 2 months to solve it on my own. If I don't solve it on my own, then I'll buy the glasses. I lost the paper, never used it anyway. So in those 2 months, I took the time to examine my life and see if the messages behind presbyopia and astigmatism were meaningful. And if so, what choices I needed to make different with my life to be clear and be coherent and congruent and live from an authentic place. And I did that work. And after 2 months, my eyesight was back to being perfect. No exercises, no chemicals, nothing, just introspection and being authentic. So by that time, I had improved my eyesight 3 times, and every time it was through a different approach. The first time it was at the physical level, if you want, with exercises and stimulation. The second time it was at the chemical level. At that time it was with antibiotics, but there is much that you can do with nutrition and detox that can help also your eyesight. The third time was at this emotional level or metaphorical level, looking at the eyes as the windows to the soul. And it was fascinating and very effective. And there I got curious. There I thought, okay, I've improved my eyesight 3 times, you know, like the traditional tales, when something happens 3 times, it becomes kind of magic in the story, right? So 3 times I healed my eyesight. Every time it was in a different way. Maybe there are more ways, more approaches, more dimensions, more levels at which you can improve your eyesight. And there I started doing research on purpose, intentionally on it. And I discovered that there was almost 100 years of research behind, that pre-existed my interest on natural vision improvement. And yes, there are other ways in which you can improve your eyesight. You can train your brain to see better, because the eyes are only the cameras that are transforming light impulses into nervous impulses. But the experience of seeing is produced in the neocortex, in the brain. And you can also train your brain to see better, even if your eyes stay the same, which they also improve. But even if they did stay the same, you could still improve your eyesight by training your brain. You can also improve your eyesight paying attention to the quality of light that you're exposed to. There's light that is very bad for your eyesight and light that is extremely good for your eyesight. And people have it all wrong. They are afraid of the sun, and it's actually the sun that is the biggest healer. You can also work by balancing your eyes. So there's a whole dimension of binocularity. So a lot of us see with both eyes at the same time. And when we do that, we can see the world in 3D. But there's people that have big differences in the eyesight.
That's how I am.
That's your case? Okay. So some people see better with one eye than the other, or they don't see with one eye at all and they see flat. And that's an inconvenience. And you can work with both eyes separately and then with both eyes together so that they coordinate and that the brain takes into account both sources of information, and then your eyesight gets so much better. You can also work with habits, daily habits of the way you use your eyes, how you look, and the little practices that you can introduce in your daily habits. In the same way you probably wash your teeth, use floss, wash your mouth. You also maybe go to the dentist once a year, but nobody thinks that the equivalent is possible for eyesight. They just go to the doctor once a year, let them put glasses or do surgeries, and that's it. Well, there's the equivalent of brushing your teeth for eyesight. And if people learn about this, then we can have a society that has a lot more clear vision. And this is not a small thing, because if the eyes are the windows to the soul, when you have people that see clearly, it's not just a physical thing. It's also a mindset. It's also a way of being in the world. We want a society with people that see clearly, that see the world clearly, that see themselves clearly, that see life clearly. It's a much happier, freer, and empowered society.
It is so interesting how metaphorical that is for society as a whole right now, generally speaking, in that we've become so disconnected from ourselves and from the natural world, and our eyesight is going down the drain in the process.
Yes, it is. And most people aren't aware that there's a silent pandemic of eyesight issues. It doesn't kill, but it does deteriorate quality of life tremendously.
Yeah.
Tremendously. In 2019, the World Health Organization published a study on the state of vision in the world in October. It was the month of vision. And at that time, 1/3 of the world population had already some eyesight problems, even though it's really taken from the text of the World Health Organization. I mean, even if the World Health Organization says it, yeah. I mean, 80% of those symptoms are preventable or curable.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I'd only imagine it's gotten worse too, especially after the COVID era.
Exactly.
People are indoors amongst artificial light. Stress is at an all-time high for most people.
So at that time in 2019, they were saying that the projection, the evaluation was that by 2050, half the world population would have eyesight issues. However, as you well said, just a few months after that, we got all the lockdowns, COVID, etc. And for 2 years, people had a huge transformation in their lifestyle. Being at home, moving less, not being exposed to the sun, being stressed for our health, our beloved ones, the future, the government, work, etc., spending a lot more time in front of computers with more LED lights that have arrived into our homes. So that was like the perfect storm, the perfect combo of all the variables to screw people's eyesight. And in the first 3 months of the lockdowns, there were various associations in several countries in Europe, because I saw the news in Spanish, in English, in French, saying that in only 3 months of the lockdowns, the decline of eyesight was dramatic. To cite just one Spanish study, 55% of the adult population had seen their eyesight decline in 3 months. And we were there for 2 years. Yeah. And for teenagers and young people, it was 78% of the teenagers that had their eyesight decline. And we were in those lockdowns for about 2 years, but there are things that transformed in our lifestyle. Like now people spend a lot more time in front of computers. There's a lot of online education and working from home. And understand me, there's a lot of beautiful things about that. I'm not like throwing the baby with the water of the bath. There are things that are good about being able to learn online and to have more flexibility and work from home. But if you just keep all the bad habits that come with it, well, researchers in June 2020 were saying that now the expectation is that by 2030, half the world population will have bad eyesight. And for people after their 40s or their 50s, they're told that they need reading glasses. And there's almost a sequence for at what age you're going to get what symptom, right? So in your 50s, you get presbyopia, and then you're going to get in your 60s cataracts, and in your 70s, macular degeneration, neuritis, glaucoma. And if we keep going like this, we're going to end all like blind as a bat. And it doesn't have to be this way. If we learn how to take care of our eyes, if we learn the good habits and the kind of lifestyle that goes together with good eyesight, we could have optimal eyesight for life. And understand me, there may be times where a surgery is necessary, and there may be moments where glasses are necessary. I'm not here like black and white, yes, no, good, bad. I don't have a Manichaean perspective. Tools are tools, and they're good to be used when they're necessary. But if you become responsible for your own health and your own eyesight, chances are that you're not going to need them, or a lot less. And that's quality of life. So I'm all for that.
I'm all for that too. I have so many questions for you.
Okay.
The first question I want to start with, though, especially because you're interested in the biology of belief in psychosomatics, is related to the stories we're told collectively about that timeline that you just described with respect to eyesight for older people, let's say. Because there's a separate category of belief about oneself, like I am unworthy, et cetera, that I'd imagine impacts eyesight too. But when it comes to specifically the belief of that timeline that the collective has adopted as a foundational belief that many of us don't even question or think about, most of us, right? How much of that is impacting one's ability to improve or, worsen their eyesight?
So the moment you believe that something is possible or impossible, you've already created a limit or an opportunity. If you think it's impossible, then why bother? Why would you do anything about it? Right. If you believe that it is possible, then maybe you start a process, and maybe the process is longer or easier or more difficult, but there's an option that you get the result you wanted. So for me, there's something there. There's another way to look at it also. And this is something that actually my students have taught me. Because when I started working with natural vision improvement, so I did research, like reading books and articles, but I also got training. I had mentors that taught me and that passed the knowledge on to me. And the mentors that taught me, they actually taught me that the only things you can improve with natural vision improvement are myopia, hyperopia, astigmatism, and presbyopia. So the symptoms that are related to tension in the muscles around or inside the eyes.
So things like cataracts would not fall into that category.
Yes, that's what I first learned when I was being trained. So everything that is related to muscles being tense, you can of course relax the muscles, you can train the muscles, so then people can see better. And that's already great, because actually most eyesight symptoms are those. So most people, what they have is that. And when I started teaching natural vision improvement in the way I put the information together that I call the ClearSight method, it was the students proving to me that they could actually heal from other things like floaters or dry eye or photosensitivity, like being sensitive to a lot of light and needing sunglasses all the time. They were the ones who showed me the results of the retina test being better and better, their cataracts disappearing progressively. So I have adopted now the perspective of letting myself be surprised by what's possible and always being in the possibility. I cannot promise that it will happen. When I have proof, because it has happened with other students, I can say, look, there's such and such a story and such testimonial of people that have done it before you. So it's possible. If they could do it, it's possible that you can do it too. And when there's people that come with a symptom that I haven't yet seen a success story with, then I tell them, it could be you, the first person who actually makes that true, makes that real, that achieves it. Do you want to give it a try? So I prefer to come to approach the problem or the question with a sense of opportunity and possibility, rather than with from the start, a negative limiting belief. And unfortunately, there's a lot of limiting beliefs around eyesight. A lot of people believe that eyesight symptoms are genetic. Nowadays, with epigenetics, we know that there's a lot more to the story than genetics. Genetics are not necessarily something that determine, but genes are like switches that go on and off.
Not fixed.
Exactly. And it depends on how you eat and how you move and if you're exposed to sun and how you sleep and how you think and how you relate to other people and your emotions. And if you have an ikigai, they would say the Japanese, or plan de vida, they would say in Costa Rica, if you have a purpose in your life, all these things impact how the genes express. But even if we would think about the genes in a deterministic way, it also doesn't hold for eyesight. Let me mention a study that was done in the 60s with the indigenous original populations of Alaska. So at the time, they would call them Eskimos. I think today we should call them Inuit. If I'm making a mistake, I apologize. Anyway, so with them, the grandparents, we are going to call them loosely grandparents, parents, and children. The grandparents had lived the traditional ways in the ice and hunting and living in the igloos and all of that. And they had extremely good eyesight. The parents had a mixed kind of lifestyle. Maybe they worked in a manufacturing plant, or maybe they lived in apartments, and maybe they went fishing and hunting, but they had an in-between kind of lifestyle. And they started having eyesight problems. And the kids, the children, they went to school like the average American child, and they had exactly the same levels of eyesight problems as any other American kid. So if we're talking genetics, it doesn't hold because it's the same population in 3 generations. It's the same genes. What has changed is not the genetics, it's the lifestyle. It's the lifestyle that has caused the myopia in this case. Actually, if we look at research from history, so for this population, it was school that generated the myopia, the nearsightedness. And the first wave or the first epidemic of myopia that is recorded in history in the world started in Prussia in the late 18th century when they established compulsory school. They were the first ones to do it.
It is so interesting that you bring that up too, because I was just researching the Prussian education system yesterday to make sure that literally just yesterday, because I was making a reel. And I obviously know now that much of our compulsory education systems in Western countries are based in the Prussian model. And it was overtly stated that the Prussian education system was intended to make obedient workers.
Yes.
Not critical thinkers.
Yes. And it was kind of military. I mean, very disciplined. You shouldn't speak. You shouldn't move. You shouldn't express. You shouldn't use this mobile body. Guess what? All those things are terrible for eyesight as well. Not only, but also for eyesight.
It's also interesting because I was in a military environment when my eyesight started to decline.
Exactly. So we were talking about limiting beliefs around eyesight. And this thing about genetics is one of them. Another one is age. Like after a certain age, your eyesight has to decline, right? And it's very interesting because people don't have this kind of belief for other aspects of their health or body parts. You would understand that if you're mistreating your body repeatedly for 40 years, of course, after 40, you're not going to be in very good shape. You're not going to have good health. But if you use time for your advantage and you have good habits, after 40, you can be in very good shape and very healthy. So it's not time per se. It's time as an opportunity to do this or that. If you're consistently making good choices, well, as time goes by, you can be better and better. And if you're systematically taking poor choices, the accumulation of those poor choices over time, of course, are going to make that in the end, after so many decades, you're not going to be very well. So that's how time works for the eyesight as well. If you're accumulating bad habits at 40, you're likely to have symptoms. If you're accumulating good habits at 40, at 50, at 60, at 70, at 80, you can see very well. And you can recover your eyesight at any age. You can recover your eyesight at any age. So I had my first success story with myself being 6 months old, and my oldest student that has been successful was 98, and she kept very good eyesight until she died being 103 years old. Yeah. And if any of you has, for example, a subscription to Netflix, you can see this documentary by Dan Butner, I think it's the last name.
What's it called?
The documentary is called Living to 100, The Secret of Blue Zones. And he's a journalist that has been very fascinated by longevity and has been traveling the world to visit different communities where people very frequently live 100 years and more. And probably I will forget some of these blue zones, but there's, for example, Nicoya in Costa Rica, there's Loma Linda in the United States, there's Ikaria in Greece, there's Okinawa in Japan, and certainly a few more. Not in the documentary, I know about the Hansa in the Himalayas, about the Vilcabamba in Ecuador. And so in these groups, in these communities, a lot of people live more than 100 years. And he identified a number of variables or aspects of health and life that impact positively for having longevity. He was talking about a plant-based diet and movement, a lot of movement, not exercise like going to the gym, but having to naturally move a lot in your daily life, having a community of meaningful relationships, having a purpose in life, and probably I'm forgetting some other things. But what's interesting is that you look at this documentary, and the documentary is not on Eyesight. But you look at the documentary and you will see extremely few people wearing glasses. Like most of these people that live 100 years, that are doing the right thing to be healthy and to be happy, they're also doing the right thing to see clearly. And you see them like carving wood or creating instruments, painting, cooking, doing things outdoors. So whether it's near or far, they have very good eyesight. Maybe there's one or two wearing glasses in the whole docuseries. Most of them don't. So you can be very old and have extremely good eyesight. The thing is, what are you doing to take care of your eyes and to improve your eyesight? And with presbyopia, which is the need for reading glasses, that's the first symptom that people learn that it comes with age. Actually, 30 years ago, the standard time, the common age to get presbyopia was 50. 10 years ago, it was 40. So in a couple of decades, we lost 1 decade of good eyesight. And the latest statistics are pointing that nowadays people develop presbyopia between 35 and 38. This is not biologically determined. This is linked to the changes in lifestyle and habit.
Are ophthalmologists and optometrists on the same page with that? Or are they just like, oh, we have no idea?
Yes and no. I mean, so on the one hand, you can read papers in ophthalmologist and optometrist journals that are pointing more and more that it is lifestyle and not genetics that are causing poor eyesight over time. So it's in scientific journals that you can read, ophthalmologists and optometrists, scientific journals that you can read these contemporary, current, groundbreaking findings. Yet most of the ophthalmologists and most of the optometrists are ignorant of this. It's not taught in their standard curriculum, and they just are taught what they're taught, to give medicines and do surgery and to prescribe glasses. We also need to understand that glasses have been around since the 12th century. Okay. And surgeries for cataracts, for instance, have been around since the 12th century.
Really?
Yes. So
that's so scary to me.
Could you imagine? At the time,
could you imagine being the first person to sign up for that?
I know. In the 12th century, probably at the time, the most advanced civilization was the Arab Muslim culture. And at the time, it used to be Jewish medical doctors that were performing those kinds of surgeries. And they would usually do it only for the elite, like for kings and like important people. And yeah, they probably used alcohol and no anesthesia.
Yeah. No, thank you.
But if you have a very developed cataract, not seeing at all or seeing after a surgery.
More like a chance, like I just want to be able to see it all, yes, where I'd rather not live.
So those more mainstream that everyone knows about solutions have been around for a very long time. So the collective consciousness is very aware of that.
Right.
Whereas the principles of natural vision improvement have been scientifically researched only for the past 100 years.
Quote unquote. She put air quotes for those that are listening.
Yes. So there's 100 years of research in natural vision improvement. The pioneering ophthalmologist that came up with it, he became first very famous and had a lot of influence, Dr. William Bates in the United States. By the way, he also discovered adrenaline.
Interesting.
Yeah. And at the time, Germany was very interested in his methods, and his methods were applied in Germany, but it was the wrong German government.
Oh, okay.
So it was not very popular afterwards. And the optometrist and the ophthalmologist had a lot of pressure against him. And even though he had very successful programs in schools in New York and North Dakota, they removed his license to practice medicine.
Just because he associated with Nazis, essentially?
No, not really. Because that is kind of an independent story.
Oh, okay.
Because he was so successful.
Of course.
And the other ones were feeling threatened.
Rockefeller medicine had already entrenched itself into every aspect of allopathic medicine. So,
exactly.
Of course.
How would you feel if you have studied medicine for like 12 years? I mean, and really, people who study medicine, I remove my hat. It really is a great, deep investment. It's a very big choice in life. And I believe that most people that choose to study medicine, they do it from a good place.
Absolutely.
Now, the system is the system. But in any case, imagine you have studied for 12 years, and now everything you believe was true can be solved with a few exercises and habits. And you would probably want to burn that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just face so much cognitive dissonance, like there's no way this is true, this guy's lying.
Yes, exactly. And also, so Dr. Bates had an ambition of transforming ophthalmology. And he had a lot of great ideas, but there are some places where I think that he made mistakes or he was literally wrong. And I do believe that ophthalmologists are useful. There's the conventional ophthalmologist. And the profession of teaching people how to take care of their eyes and train their eyes just needs to be a different profession that needs to be part of what's available for society.
Just a whole separate thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that we can work in collaboration. So actually, we've created that profession in the year 2023. So it's really recent. It's in Mexico, where the Secretary of Public Education, so the Ministry of Education in Mexico, created the degree of vision coach. It's the first country in the world to have created that degree. I'm the director of the center where it's taught. And so now that profession exists. And so we are the people who teach how you can take care of your eyes on your daily life, what habits to cultivate so you can have your best optimal eyesight for life. Now, the same way that you brush your teeth and you use floss and mouthwash and such things, you also want to go to the dentist once a year to check if there's some other thing that maybe is outside of your capacity of self-care. But your self-care does the most important thing for your teeth. So again, vision coaches teach people all they can do by themselves to take care of their eyes. And then if they do, they're more likely to have very good eyesight for life. And there are situations where surgeries are necessary. If there's a retinal detachment, you want to go to an ophthalmologist like right away. If you have a foreign object going into your eye, of course you want to do something right away. No exercise and sunlight is going to be enough for those kinds of things. If you have the high angle glaucoma, you need some intervention immediately. So in my perspective, I think different approaches or different professionals can bring different solutions, and there's a possibility for collaboration. And as long as we have the best interest of people and population, we can get along.
Beautiful. Very well said. So for those who are listening and watching, Ainhoa has already agreed to do a members Q&A. So we'll have info about that in the show notes. I'm going to ask as many questions as I can rattle off. I'm sure I'll miss a variety of things. The first question I have actually is, how many people have gone through the ClearSight method at this point, or have trained under you in some capacity and improved their eyesight as a result?
So there's different levels of measure, right?
Yeah.
As I said, we were talking about all these statistics and projections by the World Health Organization and other specialists. So because after the lockdowns, we believe that lifestyle has transformed once again, not in a good way for eyesight. If we take as a reference that by 2030, half the world population will have vision problems, we want to inspire 20 million people by then to learn how to take care of their eyes and improve their eyesight naturally. If we look at research on the diffusion of innovations, there's different models that talk about this and different researchers. Let's say that there's one that's more optimistic and one that's less optimistic. With the more optimistic one, and this actually happened for teeth, how people started brushing their teeth and taking care of their teeth on a daily basis was the effect of 20 million people starting to brush their teeth. And the whole story started with soldiers going to the First World War and the Second World War. You've had some military education at some point. Well, in the two world wars, they noticed that if people had cold feet, it was a disaster. If they had bad teeth, it was a disaster. And if they didn't eat, the soldiers didn't eat 3 times a day, they didn't have enough energy and it became a disaster. So they introduced in the discipline of soldiers to have dry socks and dry shoes, or use newspapers or papers to keep their feet hot and dry, to eat 3 times a day, and to brush their teeth. And those soldiers coming back from the world wars to their families taught their families. And then it started becoming something interesting until the public policies picked it up and started advising it for everyone and all of that. So it's something that comes kind of in waves. But if we take that model, well, my idea is let's inspire 20 million people, and also kind of a bottom-up movement. Also, let's see what we can do top-down to have the public policies pick it up. And that natural vision improvement can penetrate education systems and healthcare systems. That's a bit more tricky because you need validation with scientific research in so many ways, and politicians that are willing to listen and taking care into account other interests, and
right,
et cetera, et cetera.
I know there's a big pharma. I don't know if there's a big Eyesight, but I'd imagine there's something interest. Like it, right?
The companies that sell glasses
big
have
glasses,
interest. Maybe they're not as powerful, but they're there.
Right.
Anyway, now you can also say that as people are improving their eyesight, they may need glasses at different points. So it's not always the case that they will stop buying glasses altogether immediately. But anyway, that's another debate. But you were asking about numbers. So I wanted to frame what's the objective that we have. So this objective is to inspire 20 million people to take care of their eyes and improve their eyesight by 2030. We'll see if we actually succeed or to what extent, and if that really creates a cascading cultural movement. So I have a YouTube channel. The one in English is a lot smaller than the one in Spanish. In Spanish, we have 480,000 subscribers. And the videos that we publish in this YouTube channel have been watched over 50 million times. Of course, not all the subscribers, not everyone that watches the videos are subscribers. And we don't know of those 50 million views of the videos, how many are different people, how deep they went, if they're practicing. But in any case, that's some indication of some level of reach. I'm so happy about that.
That's amazing.
Talking with the team this morning, and we were reviewing those numbers, and we're very excited. So if we look at people who have clicked on something that we've done in our web pages over the past 10 years, by the way, 2026 is the 10th anniversary of the ClearSight method online.
Awesome.
Thank you. So there's 10 million people that have clicked on something that we've done somewhere from 192 countries. Do you know how many countries there are in the world considered by the UN? 193.
193. Wow. So how is that
only in North Korea, there's nobody that has clicked on one of our pages. Everywhere else, there's at least one person. In some countries more than in others, of course. All the Spanish-speaking countries, there's a lot more, and the English-speaking countries. Anyway, so
that's messed up, Kim Jong-un. Let the people heal their eyes.
Well, we're going to a conference in 2027 that happens in South Korea.
Okay.
So maybe being near, we're going to be able to do something with the northern neighbors. Let's see. Anyway, so 4 times a year nowadays, 4 times a year, we broadcast for free a course that's composed by 4 main lessons, free 4-part masterclass. And over the 10 years of our activities, there's 5 million people that have gone through this free 4-part masterclass. In this masterclass, or in this course, I teach what I used to teach in weekend workshops. The weekend in-person workshops were paid. People would pay €300, $300. And nowadays, thanks to technology and thanks to all the other things that we've built, we can do this for free. How amazing is that?
Amazing.
So we love to have the capacity to have this social and solidary aspect to our work. Again, that's the equivalent of a weekend workshop. 10, 15 years ago, that was the only kind of work I did.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the kind of intervention I could have. And so people would come, they would discover the tools for a weekend, they would practice, they would be wowed, and some would continue and some others wouldn't. So I became a bit frustrated about not having some way to support people beyond the weekend. And since I've been using the online tools and creating online courses, well, it's been possible to develop all these other ways to support people over time, even regardless of where they live. So when we go from the free stuff into the paid, the advanced programs, well, now the numbers are going a lot smaller, but still, it was things that I wasn't able to do 10 years ago before I went online. So we've had about 35,000 people go through the paid basic program. And when I talk about this basic program, it's because it's for the end user, for someone who wants to improve their eyesight. Yeah. So yeah, about 35,000 people in 106 countries have participated in this. And then the next number I'm very interested in, it's the people who choose to become vision coaches, who choose to embrace the profession and themselves be able to help others take care of their eyes and improve their eyesight. So currently we have 250 people that have already received their diploma, their degree. And with those included, 465 people who have signed up to become vision coaches. Our objective is to train 1,000 vision coaches by 2030. And when we do that, we will have 3x the amount of professionals of natural vision improvement in the world. Before I started training professionals, the estimation was that there were 500 of us. And so in a few years, we're going to be 1,500. So
Amazing.
That's 3 times. And yeah, I'm very happy about that because they can also have this snowball effect. When there's a professional, there's more people that they can help and they can spread the word and the good news. Now, tripling the amount of vision coaches and professionals of natural vision improvement is amazing. But if you consider how many physiotherapists there are in the world, and if you consider that there's more people having problems with their eyesight than people having a broken leg or a twisted ankle or an arm or something.
The ratio is clearly off.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to be at the same rate of physiotherapists per inhabitant in the world, we would need between 8 to 16 million vision coaches.
Wow.
So we're really at the very, very, very beginning of something.
That's exciting, though.
It is very exciting.
It's exciting,
and
yeah.
My objective is also, 20 years ago, you said that you meditated and people looked at you like, what cult have you joined?
Right.
And 70 years ago, you spoke about yoga and they were thought that you're crazy. And now everybody knows about yoga, knows about meditation. Everyone knows that it's good for you, that it's healthy. Maybe not everyone chooses it, but it's considered a perfectly legit activity.
Right.
So my objective is to make natural vision improvement as known as yoga or meditation, mindfulness, so that people can choose it. And once the information is out there, then people are free, they can be empowered. They may choose it, they may not, but at least they know. Once you know, you cannot unknow. So yeah, and maybe I'll see that happen, or maybe I'll set up the movement with my students for that to happen, crossing my fingers as soon as possible. But in any case, that's the intention.
Awesome.
For generations, our ancestors lived in harmony with nature, thriving on a nose-to-tail approach to nourishment. Organ meats, often called nature's multivitamin, were a staple, providing essential nutrients that supported energy, brain function, skin, gut health, and reproductive vitality. Yet today, these deeply nourishing foods are largely missing from modern diets, leaving many of us unknowingly depleted. Let's be real though, most of us aren't eating organ meats the way our ancestors did. Whether it's the taste, texture, or simply a shift away from traditional foods, we've lost touch with this vital source of nourishment. And that's where Paleo Valley's grass-fed organ complex comes in. It's an easy way to reconnect with ancestral wisdom and replenish the nutrients we're meant to thrive on. Sourced from grass-fed cows on small regenerative farms in the US, this blend includes liver, heart, and kidney, freeze-dried to preserve their full nutritional integrity. No fillers, no synthetic processing, just pure, bioavailable nourishment. Those who incorporate the grass-fed organ complex notice more energy, balanced moods, and renewed vitality, sometimes within days. If this speaks to you, you can explore more by visiting the show notes or heading to paleovalley.com/thewayforward. And in this case, forward is fully spelled out. So paleovalley.com/theway, FORWARD. And a 15% discount will be automatically applied at checkout.
And of that, roughly, you said 35,000, I think, that have gone through the paid course. How many have given feedback that they've improved their eyesight?
Okay, right, because that was part of your question and I didn't address it. I'm very happy you don't forget. You get back to it.
I do this for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So on the one hand, I'm kind of frustrated to say that I don't know for sure. And let me start somewhere else. So I also know, but I don't know for sure how much or how many, that people that watch the YouTube videos or go to through the free program, a lot of them get the results they wanted and they don't ever need to go to the paid program.
So without even doing the paid program that you offer, they already improve their eyesight.
A lot, because we get testimonials of that, gratitude of that constantly.
Well, I know one of my close friends went through your program, Dr. Kelly Brogan, and that's what made me interested to reach out to you. So
yes, I believe that she could get rid of her reading glasses, and her daughter also got rid of whatever glasses she was using.
Yeah,
so yes,
exactly.
So I know that people that go through the free stuff have results, and they don't even need to sign up for the paid program. And I know that there's people that go through the paid program and get results. But I cannot tell you what percentage or to what extent or in what speed, because with the online programs, they have the advantage that you can reach a lot of people. They can do it in their own time. But because you're not with them, you cannot follow up so closely who's doing what to what extent.
And even if you put out a survey, I know that from my own direct experience of putting out surveys after events, after various things that I do, very few people end up actually filling them out.
Yeah. So the thing is, if you want the results, the information is helpful, but it's not enough. You need to practice. You need to apply what you're learning. People who apply, they get results. They start noticing improvement as soon as they start applying. Now, how long it takes to get the desired result may vary from one person to another. I was listening to some students this weekend, and so I'm giving you examples. And examples doesn't mean that it's like this for everyone or what percentage is like this or like that. So this relatively young guy from Colombia in his 40s, he was telling us that in 2 weeks he could get rid of his glasses. So he had been wearing glasses for astigmatism and myopia, nearsightedness, for 3 years. Actually, the myopia, the nearsightedness, was caused by the glasses for astigmatism. And so after 3 years of wearing glasses, he got rid of them in 2 weeks. A lot of people tell us that after wearing glasses for 40 years, 50 years, they get rid of the glasses in 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
That's kind of the most common.
So it does trend towards the longer you wear them, the longer it takes, relatively speaking. It's not like it takes 5 years, but it does take a little bit longer than if you've been wearing them.
Yes, it's not exact tit for tat, but yeah, there's some proportion there. Now, notice that it takes a lot longer to ruin your eyesight than it takes to recover it.
Yep.
And also, if you don't improve 100%, but you improve 40%, 60%, 70%, it's already an increase in the quality of life. So even people who haven't reached perfect eyesight in the end, they're so happy that there's so much more they can do. They're so much more free, more empowered. They feel younger. So there's a lot of gratitude and a lot of joy in the whole process of improving. Now, I've had also some extreme cases of people. I'm thinking about Carlos, also from Colombia, but this man is in his 70s, probably even late 70s. He joined the program to become a vision coach. I mean, he's way past the retirement age, but he did it more for himself. He had completely lost eyesight in one eye, and in the other eye, he had 40%. And he went through this deeper, longer training program to have people become professionals. So he had a lot of time to practice and he learned a lot of tools. He completely recovered like 100% the eyesight of the eye that was 40%. And he recovered 70% of the other eye. The guy is playing tennis and golf. And you need 3D vision to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
His wife, like every time he's on Zoom with us, like she's like, yay, cheering up and being so happy. We've had people with keratoconus. I'm thinking about a medical doctor from Mexico. He was waiting for cornea replacement because the keratoconus was so bad. She has lost so much eyesight. And I think for her, it was like 4 or 5 months. And she recovered from the keratoconus and a bunch of other symptoms that she had been accumulating over time. And in her case, it's her kids. Every time they see me, they're like cheering up and being so happy that their mommy is seeing again. Another student that was speaking yesterday, I don't remember where she's from, but she lives in the UK. So she had -18. That's a very, very high myopia. Like the person cannot see their hand in front of them. If you see her glasses, they're like thick as the bottom of a glass or a bottle. So for her, it took her 9 months to go from -18 to -4 and 3 more months to nothing.
What?
Yes, she's telling us that nowadays she can do absolutely everything in life without glasses.
That is incredible.
Yes. So when I'm telling you, it's my students that are showing me what's possible. And when I hear their stories and I see the results, I have goosebumps, like I levitate of happiness.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Now, so I'm not being able to give you percentages of success. And again, a lot of the having the results relies on people actually practicing what I'm teaching. But since 2025, since we created this degree at the International University of Human Development and Leadership in Mexico, we created also a university center. And in the university centers, you don't only have training and education. You have also research.
Amazing.
And research divulgation and other things and organizing conferences and things. So in 2025, we were able to hire the first researcher in the center. So during 2025, he's been carrying a pilot study. And in 2026, we go from beta to alpha, and we're going to extend the research and invite other colleagues to participate. During 2025, he invited participants of the ClearSight method, so it was on a voluntary basis, to follow this research where every week their eyesight would be evaluated. Mm-hmm. And so we use eye charts and small print, rather standard, very conventional, and we give them instructions on how to self-evaluate. Mm-hmm. And so every week they can report how they're seeing with the eye charts, and they report how they're practicing and if they notice other improvements in their eyesight and the conditions of lighting and the conditions of the measurement, how they've been feeling, etc. And so he was able to gather information from more than 150 participants, students, and he gathered more than 1,000 measurements over a period of 8 weeks for each cohort. And of course, there's individual variability that will happen anyway, but the trends are very clear that people who practice, their near vision improves and their far vision improves. And if you look at what do you call that? The quartiles, the 25, 25, 25, 25%. Yeah. Okay. So the people that started with the worst eyesight are the ones that improve the most relatively. Because they double and triple the distance at which they can see. Once you see from 6 meters, you're not going to see from 7 meters or 8 meters certain letters. But if you start this near the eye chart, well, in the beginning, you can progress really a lot. So this research that he's carrying is very exciting and very promising. And now we can get the percentages and all of that. But again, there's some self-selection. The people that participate in the research are more likely to be the people who practice. And the people who practice are the more likely to be the ones that are having results. So now we presented this research, the results of the pilot study, at the International Conference of Holistic Vision last October. And we open an invitation to other colleagues all over the world to share the same protocol to gather information so that we can get a lot more robust data. And then, it will not only be the ClearSight method, but we can also see natural vision improvement as a whole, as it is practiced in the contemporary world, how it well impacts eyesight. And so we created an international panels of experts. So we are also getting input on the methodology from other colleagues. And we're very excited to start that phase very soon and to start publishing the results also in scientific journals. Yeah.
Amazing. So there's a lot of questions that I have related to what are the causes. And I like that you brought up the example of the Inuits/Eskimos, because it points to a lot of the trends that we see regarding the variety of health issues that ail us today in modern society. And it's really just modernity itself that is leading to these issues, right? So the first thing that I'd like to tackle, really because we're sitting under a bunch of artificial lights. Luckily, I have shameless plug to daylight. This doesn't have any blue light on it. This doesn't have any screen flicker, which I really appreciate. And then I have raw optics. And you have some ideas on blue blockers that I'd like to discuss too. So I want to talk sunlight, artificial light, and especially overexposure to blue light and the impact based on your research and your colleagues' research on eyesight.
Okay. First, if I may, just take a step back. So when Dr. William Bates, the pioneer of natural vision improvement, started his research, seeing how people who see well use their eyes, there was 5% of myopia in the United States, in Europe. Nowadays, there's 47 in Europe, 41 in the United States, myopia. In several countries in Asia, 80%. And in certain cities in Asia, 95%.
That is crazy.
So in 100 years, it's not our genetics that has changed, it's our lifestyle. And so absolutely, the decline of eyesight accelerates when you are in certain kinds of contexts and living in a certain way. So we are talking about blue light. We're going to talk about light and LED and sunlight. But also, just last week, I was contacted by a lawyer that is close to the system of prisons in Spain, asking us to bring volunteers like vision coaches to go to the prisons to help the people who are there with their eyesight. Because in those contexts, the conditions are such that they almost become blind. They cannot even distinguish their bodies.
Wow.
Because of the lighting, the lack of stimulation, the lack of possibility to see far away.
Also, being in a prison is just stressful as hell. Yeah.
Yes. But so that's kind of an extreme example, but it's an extreme example that tells us about the variables that are at play. So the more we live similar to being in a prison, that is being indoors with poor lighting, with no stimulation, no movement, and a lot of pressure, well, the more likely is that we're not going to see very well. And that kind of happened during COVID.
It absolutely did. Yeah. And a lot of people have not recovered from that lifestyle.
Yes, have not changed. So, and again, there's changes in lifestyle that can have some positive aspects, like we can talk about the effects of screens, but it's not about demonizing screens. If you spend a lot of time looking at a screen, it's likely that your eyesight is going to decline. And at the same time, the screen is bringing you connection with the whole world and education and so many possibilities. So my question is, how do we compensate the time that you spend in the screen, or how can you learn what to do when you're spending time in front of a screen to take care of your eyes at the same time? Do you want that we take it from screens or LED?
Yeah, please. Screens, and then we can discuss overhead lighting.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that happens, so a lot of people think that the main problem with screens is blue light. And blue light is part of the problem. It is a problem, but it's not the only problem in front of a screen. The first thing you stop doing in front of a screen is blinking, because the screen doesn't blink. When you're talking to a human, the human blinks, you blink, like the other one yawns, you yawn. We're imitating each other. And this imitating with blinking is good for your eyesight. When you inhibit blinking, well, actually, your muscles stay tense longer. You don't stimulate the production of tears, so it's more likely that you have dry eyes. The cornea, the tear also evaporates, so the cornea is not as round and smooth. Your eyes are not cleaned. You don't have mini moments of production of the substances that allow you to see with colors. So actually blinking is very, very useful and very important for eyesight. And when you inhibit blinking, it is a problem. And that is very, very common with screens. Guess what? Wearing glasses, you're also inhibiting blinking. So this is one of the reasons why I don't love the blockers, even though I can see other advantages they have. Another problem with screens is that when you're looking at a screen, you're looking at the same distance all the time. And that's extremely tiring for the muscles in the eyes. They become tense, and it's that chronic tension in the muscles of the eyes that cause the refractive errors, like nearsightedness, farsightedness, astigmatism, presbyopia. Different kind of muscles groups cause different symptoms, but the root cause is tension in the muscles for that ensemble or that collection of symptoms. So when you are in front of a screen, it's very important that as often as you can, you look beyond the screen. It's very useful to have a window near your working station.
I have a window just behind my screen.
Exactly.
At home.
So that you can look, or you can turn, or you can stand up, and you can have some active pauses. Very important that you go to the window. Preferably you open the window. Preferably you remove the glasses and you look far. Mm-hmm. Even they talk about this 20-20-20 rule. So at least for 20 seconds, every 20 minutes of a stationary work in front of a computer, look at least 20, I don't know the imperial system, so I don't know if it's feet or yards or what, it's 6 meters, the equivalent of 6 meters, so that you look at least that far to relax the muscles in your eyes. Also very important, when you're looking at a screen, you tend to have your attention focused on central vision. And central vision works together with peripheral vision. If you overstimulate central vision, but you don't pay attention to peripheral vision, your vision declines also. So
you quite literally get tunnel vision.
Yes. So first, just to have the awareness and to make the decision to pay attention at the periphery already does a great deal. And if you want to support that, you can also have some mobiles around your working station to make your brain aware that there is something more than the screen. Okay, we'll get into the blue light, but let's talk posture also. A lot of people in front of a screen, they're like this, or in front of their phone, they're like this. So the head is not on the right axis. And once the head is forward, it's a lot heavier. And so the muscles in the neck need to pull a lot more. They become also chronically tense. And guess what? The muscles that participate in focusing in the eyes are connected to the muscles in the neck through the fascias. And we can do a very little test that will prove this very quickly. You want to do this with me?
Please.
Okay, so take your hands and put your hands on the back of your skull. And you're going to put the fingers like this. They will naturally arrive to the base of your skull. Okay? So press a little bit. Mm-hmm. And now move your eyes up and down and right and left. And you will notice movements at the back of your head just by moving your eyes.
Whoa.
See?
That's so crazy.
So when we say
that is so crazy.
When we say that everything's connected in the body.
I love how everyone here is doing it too.
It really is. So it's not just what happens in your eyes. If there's tension in your muscle chains in other parts of your body, it could be affecting your eyesight. So I'm not going to do it because we would need to stand up and move around. And I know there's all this setting with the mics, etc. But if you try to bend, so you stand up, you bend forward, and you try to touch your toes with your fingers. And some people reach, some not, because they're more or less flexible. Okay, so you can take that as a reference to see how far you can go. And after you do that, spend a minute just looking up and down and left and right and doing movements with your eyes, and try again. The second time around, you're going to reach a lot further down.
Why is that?
Because all the muscle chains are connected in the body through the fascia.
Through the fascia, yeah, that makes sense.
So the same way that if you relax your eyes, or you move your eyes, you're helping relax other parts of your body. The reverse is true. So people that are carrying around a lot of tension or are spending a lot of time not moving, like sitting down in front of a computer, they chronically really tense the whole body. And the eyes are the last body part to relax, usually, if you don't do anything, and the first to get tense.
Interesting.
Also, because the eyes respond to our emotions very quickly. Like, look at any horror movie, the first thing that you notice is the expression of the eyes. When the person is like, all scared. So the eyes are extremely sensitive to our emotions and they can tense up very quickly.
It's interesting that water, it's pretty obvious now, water holds memory, and the highest concentration of water, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I don't know if you know this, from my understanding, the highest concentration of water in the body, is in the eyes?
Well, if you look at the various parts of the eyes, so basically an eyeball is like a balloon that's filled with water.
Right.
In the front part, you have the aqueous humor, and in the back part, you have the vitreous humor. It's a little bit more dense, but it's basically liquid. So absolutely. So the quality of the water that you drink is also going to affect your eyes.
Of course.
And also, people know that most of the oxygen that we breathe is used by the brain, but actually, the eyes are part of the brain. Within the brain, it's the eyes that consume the most oxygen. And the retina is the tissue in the whole body. And actually not just the retina, but the fovea, the macula, the fovea, is the tissue in the whole body that consumes the most oxygen. So what kind of air you're breathing, how well you're breathing, affects your eyesight. And a lot of people spend time at the computer and they don't breathe. They're like in apnea, holding their breath in front of a computer.
I notice a drastic difference if I do Qigong or some type of breath work or some type of meditation. I'm just naturally breathing more deeply, more focused. My eyesight improves just a little bit relative to how it was before. I know, like, a drastic difference.
So the blue light of the screens, yes, but there's a whole bunch of other things that come with the screens that are good to pay attention to. Now, with blue light, so there's a lot of partial information, and then myths are built around partial information and they become limiting beliefs. So a lot of people believe that blue light is bad for you. And that's not true, or it's only partially true. The blue light from the sunlight in the middle of the day is amazing for your eyesight. And actually, they've done research in Australia and Singapore and Hong Kong that show that when kids spend 2 hours playing in the sunshine in the middle of the day, they're a lot less likely to develop myopia, nearsightedness. The same way that when you don't have the little light at night so that the kids can find the toilet or that they're not scared, if you don't have that light and kids can sleep in total darkness, they're a lot less likely to develop myopia or nearsightedness.
Wait, so if you just let them sleep in total darkness?
In the dark.
Yes, yeah.
So you want to have sunshine and sunlight during the day and darkness at night.
Well, it makes sense. Like, from what I've learned about circadian rhythm health.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people don't even think about this. And the irony is that we're in a space right now that has artificial light, but you have to do it sometimes. Anyway, that being said, I've come to understand that at night after the sun goes down, the only thing that human beings were exposed to with respect to light historically, was either the stars, the moon, candle, or just some source of fire, which would have been eye level. So if we're having any sort of overhead lighting or lighting that is at eye level or lower than eye level, that is not that sort of warm, rich, orangish red color, then that's not biologically appropriate for us.
Absolutely. So as you say, it's very simple. It's logical. As the sun, the day and the night work, at night we need darkness for good eyesight. And so the ideal is to have a room that doesn't have if you have, first it would be better not to have electrical and electronic devices in the room where you sleep. So it's better if you don't have a TV, if you don't bring your computer, if you don't bring your cell phone. And even if you don't have an electric alarm, because all those things, they bring electricity into the space, number one. And number two, they often have some little light pilot that is actually disturbing your nervous system and disturbing the production of rhodopsin and other opsins for your retina to be able to see in colors during the day. So when you bring light into your place of sleep, your place of rest, it alters your metabolic system, it alters your nervous system, and it disrupts also the production of the substances that you need to see clearly during the day. So if you cannot control the conditions because you're traveling, well, at least bring a mask with you, an eye mask, and sleep with the eye mask. But if you can create real, natural, total darkness where you sleep, that's going to be even better. And during the day, you want to be exposed to natural sunlight. And the idea is not to be naked and spend the whole day in the sun. We don't live that way anymore anyway. But if you could ideally be outdoors at sunrise and sunset, those would be, if you have the opportunity, especially at sea level, you can look directly into the sun when the solar disk is touching the horizon. At that time, it's perfectly safe and it's even pleasant and beautiful to share. If the sun is higher, well, some people claim that you can look into the sun and they do special protocols for that. But if you are going to do that, do it really by the book. And I'm not a specialist in sun gazing, so I won't go that direction. But when you see the sun setting or rising at sea level, you can always look at the disk directly as long as it's touching the line of horizon of the sea. So that's amazing if you can do that, because not only it regulates the circadian cycle, it's good for your retina and it's good for your nervous system. It's good for your endocrine system. It's going to activate the mitochondria of the cells in the retina, which helps the cells be healthy. And what's been proven is that when you're exposed regularly to red light, natural red light, at the time of natural red light, then your eyes are capable to handle blue light and ultraviolet light with no problem.
Interesting.
What's a problem is if you're exposed to those kinds of lights independently, then they fry your retina. You'll never look at sun eclipse directly. Ever. That will fry your retina. Yeah. But anyway, those happen a couple of times a year in different parts of the planet. Like it's not that common to be exposed to them. You really have to do it on purpose and plan it. And usually people use things to protect their eyes. Like there's enough common sense and knowledge about it that people protect themselves. But the sunrise and the sunset are extremely healing for the eyes. And if you can also, at least for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, be outside sometime around the middle of the day. So depending where you are and what's your time zone and how they've figured it out. Anyway, at the time when the sun is at the highest point, be outside at least for 15, 20 minutes. That's good because you're going to get blue light, but the kind of blue light that is good for preserving good eyesight in combination with the other frequencies. And then, so you have sunrise, sunset in the middle of the day. And if you can be outdoors for 15 minutes towards, another time in the afternoon, it's a good thing. And it doesn't have to be 4 hours. Even if you're there out for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, doing it regularly will go really great lengths. Mm-hmm. So there's an app that I love, and there's many, this is not the only one. But the one I have is called Sun Surveyor, and it's for free, or at least the one I have is for free. And these kinds of apps, they're built actually more for photographers and videographers, because they know, of course, the quality of the light they're going to get from the sun are going to impact what they're recording or of what the pictures they're taking. And these apps tell you, regardless where you are in the world, at what time the sun is going to rise, at what time the sun is going to set, at what time it's going to be at the highest point. So you can make your little plan.
Does it also tell you the UVA, UVB or anything like that?
The one I have doesn't. It just says what's the blue hour and the sunrise and the golden hour.
Cool.
And these kinds of things. And for most of us, this is enough. You just want to be there for sunrise, for sunset, in the middle of the day, and some other time where it works for you for 10, 15 minutes. And that's a very good habit to have for anyone. Now, people that become very sick of various things, there's research that shows that in those cases, exposing themselves for an hour at a time will be very healing. For example, for cancer and Alzheimer.
Which is so backwards from what we're told.
I know. Anyway, and again, those are not my fields of specialty. Yeah. So if you want to...
I've interviewed enough people on those topics to be able to speak at that. Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people fear the sun, and the minute there's a little bit of sun, they're going to wear sunglasses. And again, sunglasses are a tool. They have a place and a moment where they're useful, but wearing sunglasses the whole summer is, it's stupid. It's a very bad choice. I've seen people wearing sunglasses in the subway with artificial light. Like, that's crazy. There is no reason for that. Sunglasses became popular after Second World War because the heroes were the pilots. And when you're a pilot, you do need sunglasses, but the rest of humans, most of the time, they don't. If you're going to be skiing in the snow and the snow is reflecting the light, of course, you want to wear sunglasses then. Or if you're at the sea and there's a lot of glare from the reflection of the sun in the water, you're going to want to wear sunglasses. If you're driving against the sun setting, you're going to want to wear sunglasses. But the rest of the time, most of the time, they're not necessary. It's better to wear a hat or walk in the shade or blink more. And of course, we tend to forget that we have an amazing signaling system already built in our body that tells us when it's too much, when it's enough, if it wants more. So that is also a very important thing to learn, to listen to your own body.
Yes.
If you're at the beach and you start to be uncomfortable, go to the shadow.
Right.
Don't keep being in the sun. You're going to burn.
Right,
It's not going to be good for you. But anyway, there's a lot of moments where people are wearing sunglasses that it would be better for them not to. And if they say that they've become sensitive to the light, and a lot of people have that because we spend so much time indoors and because we've worn sunglasses before, that a way to heal from that is to actually do sunning. So you go outdoors, you remove any glass contact, whatever you have. So you make sure that there are no filters, no glasses, no filtering any portion of the sunlight spectrum. You point your nose towards the sun as high as it is. You close your eyes. So once the sun is away from the horizon line at the sea level, for safety, or if you do other protocols
I know,
under your own
I have a
responsibility.
friend that I've interviewed on this podcast, Deepak, and I was with him at, I want to say like 2 p.m. in the middle of the summer, no clouds in the sky. This is exceptional. I would never condone or recommend anyone do this, but I literally witnessed him look straight up at the sun with his eyes wide like this for maybe 45 seconds straight, and then just look at me as if everything was normal.
I know that there's people that can do this.
Yeah.
But the people that can do this, they follow a very detailed protocol with a lot of discipline to be able to do that.
He does sun gazing every day, multiple times a day.
Exactly. So because most of us are not that disciplined and haven't followed that protocol, I don't want any person to crazily and irresponsibly look at the sun and then blame me.
Right.
Right. So I'm telling the things that are the safest for most of us, but I do respect that and know that there's people that can do these things. So for most of us, look towards the sun, but with your eyes closed. You point your nose towards the sun and you can move your head. You can put your fingers in between. Anyway, there's a number of practices that you can do while you're looking at the sun with your eyes closed that will relax the muscles in your eyes, will stimulate the retina with the wavelengths that are available even with your eyes closed, like the infrared, etc. And that is extremely beneficial for your eyesight. Okay, so going into the sun, extremely useful. Our nature is aligned with the various wavelengths of the sun, depending on the moment of the day. So you cannot fail when you go in the sun. You could do it for too long, but then listen to your body. When your body doesn't want anymore, just go to the shadow or come back indoors. Anyway, so sunlight, if you are using common sense and you're following these tips that we are giving, sunlight is good for you. And you want to be exposed to it, like preferably every day, at least for, little bits here, little bits there. The body has memory. And when you are exposed to the sunlight, you also synthesize vitamin D that you can store. If you get more of it during the summer, you can have it also for the winter. So another guest of yours was talking about this not long ago. But what people don't know is that if you go outdoors wearing glasses, guess what? Even normal glasses are filtering part of the wavelengths from the sun. A lot of my students report that when they were wearing glasses, they had to take vitamin D supplements. And when they stopped wearing glasses, they didn't need them anymore. So make sure that the times that you're outdoors, if you are safe, of course, safety first, but make sure that you remove glasses and contacts at least part of the time that you're outdoors, and make sure that you do some sunning without glasses or contacts to get all the benefits, including vitamin D.
You know what's so interesting about many contacts these days is that they have built into them UV blocking and blue blocking technology based on the premise that the sun is bad for us. And of course, screens, a lot of us have come to understand that. But as you're saying, blue light contextually is appropriate for us, just not in isolation exclusively for long periods of time. That's the difference. So the fact
people
that
are doing the things reverse and wrong.
Of course, right?
Yeah. So blue light is actually what allows us to synthesize vitamin D. But if you're outdoors with glasses, with sunglasses, or with contacts, or with contacts, glasses, sunglasses, you're not getting the benefit. And actually, since 2018, it is known that most of the vitamin D that we synthesize through the eyes, not through the skin.
Interesting.
Yes. So you really need to have your naked eyes be exposed to sunlight.
I would be really interested to see skin cancer rates, and like a chart of skin cancer rates next to a chart of contact wearing with like specifically UV and blue blocking tech in them. And then also probably things like suntan lotion and sunscreen. But it would be interesting though, just to see if there's any correlation at all between wearing contacts and skin cancer rates.
I cannot give you results of that research. Maybe that research exists, maybe it doesn't. But there's research in Australia with the original population that has very, very dark skin. When they started wearing sunglasses, which were not actually part of their lifestyle originally, they started getting burned and getting skin cancer.
This is what I was getting at. Exactly.
So, and it makes sense because the eye is the organ for perceiving light.
Right.
So it's the organ that's informing the rest of the body about what time of the day it is, et cetera, if it's hot or cold, and how to regulate everything else for it to work properly, considering the amount of light there is. So when you're putting glasses, but even worse, sunglasses, you're completely confusing your body. It doesn't know anymore if it's day or night. It's completely confused, completely out of whack. It's like trying to measure the temperature, putting the thermometer next to a heater.
Right.
Of course, it's not going to give right information. So these Aboriginal populations from Australia with very dark skin, so really very, very well equipped not to get burned by the sun, they got sunburn and skin cancer when they started wearing sunglasses.
Crazy. I believe it though. I totally believe it. Wow. Okay. There's so many other things I want to talk about. We're going to have to cover a lot of these during the member Q&A.
So, you wanted to talk about blue light and LED light more in the artificial setting.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I think you have really amazing interviews already in your podcast talking about this.
And they're really directly in line with the circadian biology approach.
I mean, we could talk a little bit about this, but we can also direct.
Yeah, let's move on to something else. I think we can summarize that in saying exactly what I said earlier. Blue light, overexposure to isolated blue light is not good for your eyes. It's not biologically appropriate. That's where contextually sometimes these things can be okay, right? But then also, correct me if I'm wrong on this, based on your current position, these can also be used as a crutch to weaken your eyes in some cases.
Again, tools are tools and they are useful in certain contexts and different moments. Blue light isolated, and that happens with LED lights and in screens.
Right. Really just all of our artificial environments in our homes.
Yes, exactly. They're not good for your health in general, in particular for your eyesight. So when you're going to be in front of a computer for a long time, my advice would be to actually use filters for the screen of the computer. Okay. You can use physical filters. You can use virtual filters. The physical filters, will physically filter some of the blue light rays. And the virtual filters, they change the color of what you see on the screen. And I think you have one on.
Yeah, I have it on this. I have it on my phone. Where on the iPhone, you can go into settings, accessibility, go to color filters, and you can turn it on and off.
So most devices now have installed already some of these filters. You can also install extra ones. There's a couple that I like very much. I use f.lux, Lux. That one is a free one, and it will take into account where in the world you are. To
cool.
change the and so after a certain time your screen is going to become more yellow, more orange, more red. Wow. So kind of following what would be the length waves of the sun if the sun is setting, etc. And so if you keep watching your screen at night, it will keep on that kind of reddish color. For most of us, it's okay. Designers probably want to see the true colors, etc. But well, that's kind of an exceptional thing. And there's another one, that one is paying, as far as I know, called Iris. And I have colleagues that are very happy with it and students that are happy with it. So that's another option. If we're talking about the LED lights at home, you also, well, your other guests have good news about new light bulbs that are LED, but are more sophisticated. So they're
similar to incandescent.
Exactly. Incandescent and halogenous lights are the best in the artificial lights. Fluorescent lights are terrible, and LED, they're not good at all either. But there's LEDs that allow you to change the color. So that's a kind of if you're going to use LED better, maybe you could have some salt lamps or candles. Like, try to do what you can reasonably to go towards orange or red light, especially in the evening, in the morning, and in the middle of the day. It's okay to have blue light because that's what would be outdoors. The problem is once the sun is setting, that messes up our biology again, nervous system, endocrine system, etc. So I guess for that would be enough.
Yeah, that answers that.
Since you have other guests that talk about it,
especially because there's so much other stuff that I want to cover.
That others don't talk about. So, yeah.
Most of you are already aware that our everyday devices are taking a real toll on human biology. Talking about our laptops, our tablets, our phones. Each one of these is hitting you with non-native EMFs, artificial light, excessive blue light, and constant screen flicker. And most of us are feeling the harmful effects whether we realize it or not. But there is a better option. Daylight Computer is actually solving all these problems at the root. And I had an awesome conversation with Tristan Scott from Daylight on episode 202, breaking all this down. Here's a brief clip from the episode.
We have a reflective display technology, similar to a Kindle, which was really the inspiration behind the product overall. It's really intended to be a magic piece of paper. And the reflective technology works just like everything else in nature.
What are some differences between this and a Kindle?
Kindle was the inspiration, but it was limited. It's great for reading, for turn paging, but if you try and do anything else, it's too slow. We wanted to bring a display technology that feels like digital paper, but can do more. It can do email, it can go on the internet, it can go on social media. We created a Kindle on steroids, which now means it's a healthier iPad.
All right, so if you'd like to check out Daylight for yourself, just head to daylightcomputer.com or just head to the show notes and enter code TWF50 at checkout for $50 off your order. And if you're a member of the wayforward.com, just head to the member marketplace and you'll find an even greater member exclusive discount waiting for you there.
I would like to talk about, we went into the biology of belief a little bit as it pertains to this, but I'd like to talk about now the emotional and sort of psychospiritual, if I dare to say that, psychospiritual. And I'd imagine that has an impact on it, right? Because it relates directly in my position to our emotions and just the nature of perpetual fight or flight, which so many of us are in these days, and the impact on eyesight. We touched on it a little bit as it relates to the Prussian education system and impact there, but I'd like to speak to it a little bit more directly if we could.
Yeah, we can talk about several things in that domain. So first, you were talking about the fight and flight mode, where so our autonomous nervous system can function in like two modes. When the sympathetic autonomous nervous system is active, that's when you feel danger, when you're afraid and you hide or you run away or you fight. Basically, those are the three main reactions. Or when we're relaxed, we feel safe, then it's the parasympathetic autonomous nervous system that takes over. And there we can learn, we can remember, we can digest, we can be curious, we can be fascinated. So maybe other researchers like Bruce Lipton talk about you're either in fear or you're in love. And it literally is which part of your autonomous nervous system is regulating how your whole body settings are functioning and how you're behaving and how you're perceiving life and the world. Literally, when it's the autonomous nervous system, the sympathetic part that's in command, we are feeling danger. So the question that we're asking is, what's the way out of here? Where's the emergency exit? So we develop tunnel vision, we're not aware of the peripheral vision. Our pupils dilate. So by definition, we see less sharp, literally, because to see sharp, it's just the fovea that needs to be stimulated in central vision. And as soon as our pupils are dilated, there's larger portions of the retina that are stimulated. So we see less sharp immediately. Tunnel vision, well, the energy goes to the legs and the arms to run or fight or whatever. Our perception is literally instantly worse the minute we're fearing fear. And we know how the brain works, whether the threat is real to your real survival, like the biological survival, or it's perceived. And in modern society, thankfully, we don't really have all those many real threats for our life, but we are constantly comparing ourselves, being put under pressure. So in the imagined or perceived threats, we have a gazillion more than we used to have. And so we either do something intentionally to calm ourselves down, to relax, to breathe, or most of us would be governed by the sympathetic autonomous nervous system most of the time, where we literally instantly see worse.
Another example of that might be, and this is something that's may not be a perceived threat on the conscious level, but more on the subconscious nervous system level. Going back to screens, obviously the blue light, we touched on that, but the flicker on most screens, like that is alarming to the nervous system to the degree that it presents biologically as a danger on the subconscious nervous system level.
Yes. Now, so that's one first level to have this discussion. So the more you are relaxed, you feel safe, you feel love, you are happy, and you intentionally cultivate those states, the more how your nervous system works is going to offer you the settings with which you can see a lot better. So when we're feeling relaxed, our pupil closes so we can see details a lot better. Actually, when there's more light, and sunlight is always more intense than any artificial light, the pupil closes so we can see details a lot better. We can see color a lot better. The better quality of light around us, the better quality of sight. Our eyes are more mobile, and so the relationship between central vision and peripheral vision is the appropriate one. And not only we perceive in the moment a lot better, but our memory and our learning is activated. And remember, I told you earlier that the tissue that consumes the most oxygen in the body is the retina, and within the retina, the macula, and within the macula, the fovea. That's the little part of the eye where we have the most cones. And cones are the photosensitive cells that perceive color and perceive detail. And this has been the body of this machine. It's not a machine. This organism has been designed so amazingly that because it's so expensive to see sharp, so expensive in terms of oxygen, of resources, we have a very teeny, tiny little piece that consumes all that much oxygen. And the reason why we see clearly in general is because people who see well, like me, we keep moving our gaze, looking at different details. And it's actually memory that takes a lot less resources that keeps showing us a sharp image.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, go ahead.
That also ties to being present.
Exactly.
Yeah. I noticed that too. Like if there are periods of time where I'm an entrepreneur, so there's going to be times where like maybe this is conditioning coming in where I feel the need to like be thinking up here, brainstorming on how things can be better. I noticed that when I'm caught up in here, my eyesight tends to be much worse.
Yeah, your perception is worse
than when I'm fully present in my body.
And when you're relaxed, your pupil is smaller. So you're getting the best quality of your eyesight through that pixel of the foveal vision. But your eyes are also more mobile. So your foveal vision is capturing more of your field and your memory is functioning better. So you literally see better. Mm-hmm.
That makes so much sense. Of course.
And there was another idea I was going to talk about, but it'll come back.
That's okay. It'll come back.
So you were saying that, yeah. Oh, yes. I wanted to give another little exercise. So you're saying when you're caught in your head, you see less well. So let's do this little experiment.
Let's do it.
So
let me take my glasses off.
however you want, maybe without the glasses. So we don't have the most ideal lighting. I mean, this is very cozy and it looks amazing.
It looks great, but no, this is not the most ideal lighting.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. With the conditions we have, let's look at our palm.
Okay.
Yeah, you look at yours, I look at mine. And so pay attention at the lines in your palm. And as you are looking for the trajectories that those lines follow, you're probably becoming aware that there's different colors of the skin of your palms, and there's different volumes. Your palms are not like flat. So as you pay attention to the details of the palm of your hand and you're very present to them, you can notice more and more details and elements in the palm of your hand. So now keep looking at the palm of your hands and start thinking about the shopping list that you need for dinner or for next week, like whatever it is that you need to buy. The moment you start thinking about something else, about the past or about the future, you're not seeing the palm of your hand as well. Did you notice that?
100%.
And it's instant.
Yes.
It really is instant. So if you're present to your senses, of course, you perceive better. It works with eyesight, with hearing, with smell, with taste, with touch. And if you're in your head thinking about the past or the future, your perception is a lot.
It's all tied in together, and it's really a question of like the chicken or the egg. But like modernity, so many of us have such a problem with being present. And I would even say for those of us who, and this is a perfect segue into the next topic, for those of us who understand that modern life is taking us away from presence, what is inhibiting us from feeling present is that in order to truly get to presence, when you stop distracting yourselves, emotions come up, thoughts come up that you may not want to address. So then you go back to finding reasons to be distracted, whether consciously or subconsciously, because you don't want to feel. So I'd love for you to talk about emotions specifically as it relates to this.
Yes, I wanted to get there too, but if you allow me for a step in between.
Please. Yeah.
So we were saying earlier how the eyes are the windows to the soul. And we were talking about how intimately related eyesight and the nervous system are. Also emotions, we'll get there too. Now, there's this absolutely fascinating research that was published in the 80s, so it's been a while, by optometrists that worked in collaboration in centers where people have multiple personalities disorder. And listen to this because it's fascinating. I'm going to use very stereotypical ways to talk about this, but let's imagine that someone believes, I don't know, they're Napoleon and they believe that they're Jesus. Okay? When they believe they're Jesus, they see perfectly well. When they believe they're Napoleon, they have nearsightedness. And the shift from the one to the other happens at the same precise time. The shift of the eyesight happens at the same speed and time as the shift in the multiple personality. So if there's a personality that has an eyesight symptom and another personality that doesn't, or that has the opposite symptom, it means that there's a way of being where we can see clearly. And the minute we're in there, at that instant, we see clearly. And this is why, for me, this emotional level, for me, it's like the secret formula of Coca-Cola. I mean, this is it for me. Of course, habits are very important. You can exercise. All the other things we were talking about, you want to pay attention to. But for me, this is like the thing that shifts results for people. The people that put a finger on the emotional issue that they needed to solve and they do it, that's when you see the lady that had minus 18 diopters of myopia get back to 0 because she did the inner work. So, and it can be an instant. So earlier you were surprised, happily surprised with this student that let go of eyeglasses in 2 weeks. I have seen people get rid of myopia in half an hour.
That's incredible.
I have seen people to get rid of myopia with 3 hugs, but because they were willing to do the shift and do the transformation. May I tell the story about the guy of the 3 hugs?
Please, yes,
I love that
please
story.
tell.
So this was a time I was teaching a workshop in Coatzacoalcos, Mexico, and it wasn't a very large group. I think there were like 20 people, and among them there was an engineering in his 40s, father of a family, so 2 girls and a wife. And so we're going through the various aspects of vision improvement. And so we did exercise and relaxation. We talked about nutrition and all the things that people expect that are good for your health, like moving, right? Exercising and eating well. And then we go into more surprising realms like emotions and training your brain. And so when we're talking about this emotional aspect and we're in the middle of a long segment, so I say, okay, when we've talked about all of this, let's take a little pause. And now I'm going to teach you a way to hug someone else that will maximize the benefits of hugs. Hugs are really good for you, for immune system and for many other things. So I'm looking at the guy and I see how he's like, and now the lady wants us to hug, like kumbaya. He's like internally being so cynical about it.
Of course.
Like really, the guy doesn't want to do it, but he's trying to do his best to play the good student. So he's not going to like create a problem or something. So he yields into it reluctantly, but he does follow the steps and gives 3 hugs, as I invited people to do, to like give 3 hugs in a certain way and for so long, and then talk about the experience. So after the 3 hugs, the guy opens his eyes and he's like really puzzled. And he comes to the front of the room with tears in his eyes. And he says, I am so impressed. For the first time I can remember, I'm seeing completely sharp. I have no glasses. I can see all of you, like everything is clear. And I was not wanting to give the hugs because I'm the kind of guy that was raised in a family, in a traditional family where guys don't show their emotions and they're not affectionate. And I was like, ha, 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 laughing inside of me when you were telling about the hugs. But I went for it. And just after 3 hugs, like life is clear again. And he kept crying and saying, and I've been depriving my wife and my daughters from affection and hugging them. And now I'm going to hug them every day of my life and show them how much I love them. The guy keeps writing to me at Christmas. We're talking about this happened 10 years ago in 2016. He keeps writing to me at Christmas to wish me a happy Christmas and a happy New Year, etc. He keeps telling me that his eyesight is amazing and that bringing this dimension of affection and love, explicit expression of affection and love in the family has done wonders for him. Every time I talk about this story, I get goosebumps.
That is so cool. Yeah. You know, on that note, especially because so many men have been conditioned to not show emotion, is there any research indicating that men tend to have worse eyesight issues than women, or is that not the case?
The emotions that are inhibited for men and women are different. Men usually are invited to inhibit their expression of fear and sadness. Women are invited to inhibit the emotions of anger because they're not cute if they're angry, right? They're difficult and they're so.
My daughter's going to have perfect eyesight then. You know, you've met Charlie enough.
Yeah, so there's a bit for everyone. Yeah. And so the question you ask, I don't have data that I could share with you.
It would just be interesting because men have been conditioned to that. But you're right. Women also have too.
Yes. What I have seen is that women are more likely to develop presbyopia and to develop it earlier.
Interesting.
The need for reading glasses. And when you know about the psychology of presbyopia, it completely makes sense. If you want, we can start talking about maybe not all of them because there's gazillion eyesight symptoms. But
the emotions as it correlates?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, please.
This research started in 1958. Okay. And the pioneer of this line of research around emotions and eyesight was Dr. Charles Kelly. He was a psychology student, had nearsightedness, myopia. And he had the possibility to work directly with Margaret Darst-Corbett, who was a direct disciple of the last period of activity of Dr. William Bates.
Okay.
Margaret Darst-Corbett directly worked with Aldous Huxley, for example, the writer of A Brave New World that a lot of us had to read in high school, right? Mm-hmm. In universal literature or world literature class. And she was established in LA and she worked with a lot of famous people at the time. She got a trial for practicing medicine without license. She won the trial. A lot of people came to the trial to speak highly of her and her work, including Aldous Huxley. But she kind of became shaken by the experience and she kind of told her students to be very discreet and work almost in the shadow. That has kind of been the culture in the profession until very recently. With the university degree and, well, other things that we're doing, we're getting more and more comfortable to be visible, to help others see and also to be seen at the same time. We're becoming more and more comfortable with that. But anyway, so let's get back to Charles Kelly. Charles Kelly worked with Margaret Corbett, and he could get rid of the myopia, the nearsightedness that he had. And because he was a psychology student, he, of course, studied psychoanalysis and Freud and the students of Freud. Among them, you may have heard of Wilhelm Reich. Okay, so German scholar, came to the United States with the World Wars, a psychiatrist. And he, among other things, started developing, he was a brilliant guy and talked about many things, but the one that we're interested about here is how when you don't express emotions, they become muscle tension in your body. Mm-hmm. And that also happens in the eyes. The eyes have muscles for focusing. So you could even know if a person tends to be depressed or angry or happy or sad or whatever by looking at their posture. And that's kind of common sense too. Anyway, other people with Wilhelm Reich, like Lowen, also psychiatrists, worked about on these topics. And they developed this theory of the muscle shields, right? So Charles Kelly, because he was a psychology student, had been exposed to these theories about emotions becoming muscle tension and these muscle shields. And because he was working with Margaret Corbett, he became acquainted with Dr. Bates' theories around how eyesight deteriorates and how refractive errors appear with muscle tension in the muscle groups in the eyes that participate in focusing. Not just the muscles that control the crystalline, the ciliary muscles, but also the muscles around the eye globe, the recti muscles and the oblique muscles. Yeah. So he kind of put 2 and 2 together and he thought, okay, what if the tension in the muscles in the eyes that actually cause the strain that make us have our vision decline have an emotional origin? And he started working with myopia, with nearsightedness. So, and he wrote a PhD. He collaborated with the Department of Ophthalmology of Columbia University, and he was doing the research at the New School of Social Research in New York. And he won the prize to the best PhD of the year. And we're talking about prestigious universities. Anyway, at that time, with that PhD, he was interviewed on TV, on the radio. He was published in the New York Times and Time magazine. And as soon as he didn't continue talking about this, whoop, it went into being completely forgotten. Like I don't know of any university that, whether in ophthalmology or in optometry, puts this information about this research in the curriculum. I highly doubt it. Anyway, so I knew about this line of research through Dr. Martin Brofman. He was from New York, but he lived at least, 30, 40 years in Europe. So I got to meet him in person. I ended up translating all his workshops in Spain for the last 7 years of his life. He published 3 books, Anything Can Be Healed, which is his exploration of this psychosomatic approach. Any symptom that appears in your body, you can interpret as the sign of a tension in your consciousness or some emotion you haven't released. And when you do the introspection and maybe with the help of some other tools, you can let go of those symptoms. So that was like his general model, his general take on this psychosomatic approach. He had written another book called Improve Your Eyesight, focused exclusively on eyesight. He was my first mentor in natural vision improvement. And the third book, just maybe a couple of years before he died, called The Inner Cause, like a dictionary of the meaning of different sicknesses in emotional terms. You and I know that he's by far not the only one that has worked like this. I mean, from Louis Hay and traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda and the new Germanic Germany medicine with, so there's many people that have this approach. And well, different teachers, different researchers, there may be some nuances, but I was so lucky to work directly with Dr. Martin Brofman for a number of years. And in his books, he developed from clinic experience that he had of decades of working with people, like what are the more likely emotional or consciousness tensions hiding behind the various eyesight symptoms. And I took that set of ideas, we can call them working hypotheses anyway, and at the University of Toulouse in the south of France with another colleague, Dr. Anastasia Meidani, also sociologist. She specialized in sociology of the body and health. We carried a research with more than 2,000 subjects, asking when their eyesight started deteriorating, what was going on at that time of their life, which is an open question. It's not implying that something that generated stress and tension would be happening. So just what was going on at that moment in their lives. And, more questions. And we could correlate that in 82% of the cases, the eyesight problem started at a very stressful time. So 82% spontaneous answers to an open question. There was a 6% extra of people that said things like, I don't know, my father died, or really cannot think of anything weird. I got fired from my job. I don't know really what may have happened. We went to live to another country. So they were minimizing things that sociology of a life course knows are the most stressful
it's a big deal,
in
right?
someone's life.
Not a big deal.
Like someone dying, someone being born, a relationship being broken, losing your job, or going to move to live somewhere else. Those are like the 5 most stressful events someone can live. So if we add 82 to that 6% that was minimizing. So that's 88% of eyesight symptoms appearing at a moment of stress. Now, for the 12% remaining, we cannot know if there was also a stressful event or not. We also know that a psychological mechanism of protection is to forget, right? Mm-hmm. So there could be, but we're going to be, how to say that?
Conservative.
Cautious. Yes, conservative, cautious. And even if we stay at 88% of eyesight symptoms starting in a stressful moment of your life, that follows the Pareto rule of the 80-20 kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So that's like super relevant.
Yes, very
really
relevant.
And if you want, we can go into a few symptoms to look at what's more commonly hiding behind those symptoms. Maybe that will create some aha moments for people
I would love
listening.
to. Yeah, please.
Okay. So
let's take astigmatism, for example. That's what I suffer with.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I had astigmatism, if you listen to my story. So astigmatism appeared when I was in my early 20s, and it appeared again in my early 30s. That was one of the 2 symptoms that I had to look straight into the eye and ask myself questions about it. So astigmatism is a very diverse symptom. Like the experience of astigmatism can vary a lot from one person to another. But it tends to make people see distorted lines, sometimes a shadow, sometimes double. And what the metaphorical aspect or meaning of astigmatism is that you're looking at your values in a distorted way. And we're not talking at values like, freedom and fraternity, these kinds of things, or value in terms of the value, like in money of something, but what is true for you.
Wow.
Like your priorities, your values that you live by. When I had to look at why I had developed astigmatism, I realized that I was living the life that my father wanted me to live. So he always dreamed of having a scientist's daughter. And so there I was doing research at the university. And I had to ask myself if that was really making my heart and my soul happy. And at the time, it wasn't. So while I'm still working at the university and doing research, but I tweaked the project, the things I was focusing on so that they would satisfy me.
That's interesting for me because so I've covered this on a variety of other podcast episodes in depth, but long story short, I wanted to be a basketball player my whole life. And I don't know if I actually wanted to or if it was because my dad wanted me to, because he was a basketball coach and he was very hard on me with respect to basketball. And I ended up going to the United States Military Academy because they were the only school that was recruiting me for West Point. I never wanted to be in the Army. I never even considered possibly wanting to be in the Army. Some good has come of it, obviously. And I'm very grateful in hindsight for that whole experience. And a lot of things happened. I ended up being a professional athlete in another sport, all the things. But that being said, I definitely, when I developed astigmatism, was not living in alignment with what I truly wanted to be doing at all.
So if you still have a little bit of astigmatism, there's a little piece of you, of your truth that hasn't yet come fully out there.
Interesting.
May I give you a few examples of
Please,
people around me that
yeah.
had astigmatism and let go of it? So actually, Martin Brofman got astigmatism when he was at the Navy for some time. And again, like you, there's things that he is happy to have learned there. But in terms of values, it was kind of the opposite of the things that he would stand for. He was a very, very loving man and very caring. And well, in the army, I mean, you need to be the tough guy.
Right.
So just not the kind of values that he wanted to live life by. So that's another example. His wife, now widow, she got astigmatism when she started to study law, following her parents' choices. And in terms of values, like at least in the university where she was going, so everyone was very rich and was going to work for the rich. And her soul asked her to be a social worker and do this solidary work. So like the values of the people studying law at that place were completely contrary to what she really stood for or wanted to do. And so she got her glasses. She got very expensive glasses for astigmatism. And she said that actually the glasses was the only thing she had in common with those people, the expensive glasses. Anyway, after a couple of years, she really decided that was not for her. She dropped law school. She went into social work. And she even forgot she had glasses. She recovered her eyesight naturally just by aligning with her values.
Without even knowing any of the...
Before she even studied any of this.
Wow.
Yeah. Another friend of mine in Mexico, with whom I collaborated about 10 years ago for a couple of years, she was a writer and a self-taught writer. She published poetry, so a very sensitive soul, right? And she did her own training in literature. So she would go to the library and she would gather a lot of books about the period of, about an epoch and a country. And she would read a bunch of these authors. And that's how she was cultivating herself. And when it was the turn of the classical French writers, she developed astigmatism. She was so bored with them, but she was fighting herself because she believed that she had to read them to have her culture on French literature. And one day when she was at the library reading the boring French authors, for her, for someone else, they may be exquisite, but for her, they were painfully boring. A book fell from a shelf from a Sufi writer, and it fell on a page that said, so she had bought glasses for astigmatism on this time when she was reading the boring French classical authors, boring for her. And the book opens in a page that says, organ that you don't use deteriorates. So she thought, I'm going to stop wearing glasses. She broke them. She threw them away. And she was fascinated by this other Sufi book. And she started reading Sufi authors, completely forgot about the French authors. Her eyesight healed. And this was before we met and before we talked about the emotional aspect. But when you stay true to yourself, astigmatism heals. When you keep betraying yourself, astigmatism keeps being there to tell you that you're distorting yourself.
Interesting. Wow, I'm really going to have to reflect on that because I'm like, what?
This is a very deep message.
Yeah, it's so deep. And so many people struggle with astigmatism. One question, could it be, okay, here's a question for me. So again, athletics was like one of the biggest pieces of my life by far. I'm just trying to like figure out like possibilities. And I started playing handball and was playing it professionally. I was playing on the U.S. national team. And I had shoulder surgery and that limited my ability to throw well in handball. And I just wanted to be a professional handball player. Could that, like losing that dream and not staying true to that, even though my body is, and this could be a belief, like I'm not able to compete the way that I wanted to previously, like could that be an example of it? And then what would be the approach if someone like that's what they truly want to do, but there's literally no way that they could? So
I have a story that's a bit similar to yours. When I was younger, I wanted to be a professional dancer and I injured my knee and well, that dream kind of went down the drain. So I don't know. I don't pretend to hold the truth.
Yeah.
What I can say is that I'm of optimistic nature. And I think that our soul has more than one way to be happy and to be satisfied. Now, if something keeps coming up, there's something that you haven't yet seen or explored or resolved. Is it about handball specifically? Maybe I don't know.
Could be just identity attachment to
could be
sports.
Identity attachment with sports, or maybe you could have a presence in handball in a different way that is not playing. Maybe you could coach. Maybe you'd need to do an exploration around it. Again, I'm sorry not to have
it's okay.
the answer for
I'm
you,
just
but now if I may mention an approach that I'm fascinated by, and it's not my approach, it's one of my colleagues. Her name is Anat Axelrod. She's a vision coach from Israel, and she's probably the one that has trained the most people in Israel at this moment. She has like 70 professionally trained vision coaches in her school up to now. And she has developed a method called listening to the eyes and conversation with the eyes. So when we had the International Conference of Holistic Vision in Valencia, Spain in October 2025, she was one of the presenters. She had a workshop. So I kind of had a taste of how she works with people and with eyes. And it's very fascinating. So many of us know about these emotional correspondences. And again, we're talking about tendencies or more likely emotion or aspect that is under the symptom, because that's what the research has showed over time, clinical research.
So basically it's not absolute or black and white. Got it.
No, it's not black and white. It's not absolute. It's not written in stone.
Trends.
But at least, yes, trends. And it allows the people to explore in the area, find some aha thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not easy. Like in your case, you're wondering, like, what about handball, etc.
Yeah.
So what she does is she puts the person in deep relaxation. She invites the people to imagine the eyes are floating balls in a bowl of water or a swimming pool or a bathtub. And from that image and that state of deep relaxation, she actually starts asking the eyes what they need, what they want, what's missing, what's going on, and the eyes give the answers. Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible.
And so maybe you could have a session with her.
I would love to. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
She can help you with the astigmatism. May I talk about the book, actually?
Yes, please.
So Anat Axelrod is one of the 43 authors from 16 countries that we feature in this book. So there's about 5.
Oh, so you have an English version.
Yeah, English version. So when we opened the degree, to train vision coaches at the university, we did a very thorough search of literature on natural vision improvement worldwide. And we found more than 500 books written on natural vision improvement in 17 languages.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So we have the bibliography if you want. Of course, articles in journals, there's a bunch more. But books that are available to the general public, there's more than 500 books.
Wow, that's amazing.
None of them were collective books. All of them were written by one author. So this is the very first collective book on natural vision improvement. We gathered 43 authors from 16 countries. It was co-edited between 2 other colleagues and me. Nathan Oxenfeld is a vision coach from the United States. Orit Kruglansky, she's from Israel but lives in Spain. And me, I'm from Spain, but currently live in Mexico. And there's fascinating chapters in this book. So you have a chapter on the conversations with the eyes. You have a chapter on sunlight. You have a chapter on night walks, for example, and many, many, many other topics.
Incredible.
There's several chapters on the psychology of eyesight, emotions, and also there's chapters combining vision improvement with other practices, like Tai Chi, like yoga, like brain gym. Anyway, it's a fascinating book if some people want to discover more about eyesight improvement. And I was showing the original was published on the 13th of December, 2024. And I mentioned the date because it was not on purpose, but it happens to be the day of Santa Lucia, who's the patron of eyes and eyesight. Mere coincidence, but interesting sign.
Of course.
And we published the Spanish version in November 2025. And that one happened to be published on Thanksgiving. So anyway, and both books in both languages became instant international bestsellers on Amazon. Not just category bestsellers that they were for like weeks and weeks, but they were in the top 100 of 11 Amazon stores
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's incredible.
Amazon.com, Amazon.es, anyway.
That's
there's
amazing.
so many stores. Yes. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're very happy to.
Yeah. Well, I'll put all the links for that in the show notes. Can we cover some other common eyesight issues and the corresponding symptoms? Because I'm sure the list goes on and on and on.
Astigmatism, we spoke about it. Tell another one. Which one would you like to know?
Let's say glaucoma.
Okay, glaucoma. With glaucoma, what happens at the physical level is that either the aqueous humor is produced very fast, more than normal, or the evacuation is obstructed. And so, anyway, in one case or the other, there's too much aqueous humor. So the pressure in the eye increases. And because there's too much aqueous humor in the front of the eye and the pressure increases, it pushes all the structures towards the back of the eye. And the damage happens at the level of the optic nerve, which is at the back of the eye. So the way the optic nerve is built, the last fibers that arrive there are for peripheral vision. So people with glaucoma progressively first lose the peripheral vision, and then they lose all the eyesight if it's not stopped. So a very common symptom of glaucoma is developing tunnel vision. So we have two things with glaucoma. First, pressure, and second, tunnel vision. I'm mentioning these details because if you haven't read the research, you can also ask you what's the effect of the symptom, and the effect of the symptom tends to be the cause for the symptom. What the symptom allows you or keeps you from doing, that's the function of the symptom, that's the cause. So people with glaucoma usually see life with too much pressure.
Interesting.
And also, if you develop tunnel vision, then you end up being focused only in what's in front of you. So you forget the context, you forget to go slow and smell the flowers, you forget everything else. So people that develop glaucoma tend to have become obsessed with something that they believe is very central in their life, but they forget about all the rest, and that's not balanced.
Wow. Okay, what about myopia?
People who develop myopia, in physical terms, the eyeball is too long. So conventional ophthalmology will say that it's because of the optical dopamine that...
Isn't that almost 1 in 2 people now have myopia though?
Well, I was saying that 47% in Europe and the United States, where in the early 20th century, it was 5%.
Yeah.
And in Asia, 80% to 95%, depending on the region and the cities.
Yeah.
So again, conventional ophthalmology will say that the eye has grown too long. And this is one of Dr. Bates's ideas. And if you look at any anatomy model of the eye or a book of anatomy, you'll see that the eye is surrounded by muscles. And there's some round muscles that surround the eye like a belt. And when they're tense, they press the eyeball becomes long. If you relax them, well, then the eye becomes more round. And 1 millimeter of difference in the size of the eye generates already 4 diopters. So even with relatively small pressure, you're getting a lot of diopters. So that's at the physical level. In terms of the experience, people who have myopia, who are nearsighted, they see well things that are near them, but they cannot see well the things that are far away. So metaphorically, it's like they're making their world small. They're bringing the energy to themselves. They're hiding away from a threatening world. Myopia or nearsightedness often develops at a moment in life where there's been a change, a sudden change that the person was not prepared for. Usually myopia develops in childhood. And the kind of situations where myopia develops, well, going to school is one of them. There's a lot of near reading, but there's also not moving, different rules than at home. Yeah, there may be it may not be a very welcoming space, school, compared to staying at home. It's depending how people live it. Yes. So that's a very big developer of myopia.
Yeah.
But there may be other kinds of events that develop myopia. Like, for example, the parents fight, or they separate, or they divorce, or the family goes to live to another place, another apartment, another city, another country, or a grandparent that the kid is very attached to dies, or there's a sibling born, and now the attention of the parents goes to the sibling. So it doesn't have to be, quote, quote, bad things, but there's a change.
Just your perception of it, though. Yeah.
the person's not ready for the change. Starting puberty is a moment for developing myopia. And now you have to deal with all the politics of attraction, being attracted to and be attracting for other people, etc. So that's a moment where people also develop myopia. With any changing cycle in school, where like from primary school to middle school to high school to university to your first job, all those kinds of transitions are moments where you could get myopia more likely. And for women, the pregnancy that they consider challenging. Maybe the first pregnancy or the number N when you have so many kids that you don't know how you're going to do with one more. So again, a moment of change that the person feels they're not prepared for and they see with fear.
If you listen to this show, you are probably well aware that there's something seriously off with our modern food systems. And even a lot of food labeled organic isn't what it seems. Some of it's shipped in from China where regulations are murky at best, and other times companies slap the USDA organic label on while cutting corners and doing the absolute bare minimum in order to achieve that label. That's why Dr. Cowan's Garden exists. Founded by Dr. Tom Cowan, they believe health starts with food, real food, the way that it's supposed to be grown. They call their sourcing beyond organic, which means they're working with small family-run farms who are going above and beyond the USDA organic label when it comes to growing their food. These farms care deeply about soil health and nutrient density, and some are even biodynamic certified, the highest farming standard in the world. At Dr. Cowan's Garden, they use proper processing techniques that humans have used for thousands of years because they actually work. Nuts and grains are soaked or sprouted just as traditional cultures did. Olive oils and apple cider vinegars are never heated, preserving fragile nutrients. Olive oil is protected from light because oxidation matters. The list goes on and on. The products at Dr. Cowan's Garden are made to be deeply nourishing and also incredibly delicious. Foods that you actually enjoy eating and foods that make healthy decisions actually feel good. Dr. Cowan's Garden is not about fads, it's not about fear, and it's definitely not about following government health recommendations. It's about reclaiming a simple trust in your food. If you value transparency, tradition, and food that respects both your body and nature, head to drcowansgarden.com or just head to the show notes and use code THEWAYFORWARD for 15% off your first order. Welcome back to Real Nourishment.
That checks out with me for West Point too, because that's when I developed myopia, or like at least when I started wearing glasses related to myopia.
And so if the person, besides letting go of the glasses when it's safe and they can be functional without the glasses, if people work with developing inner confidence again and trusting themselves and trusting life and trusting that things are okay, they're going to be okay. And if they're not, they can handle them. When you develop that inner confidence, the myopia stays behind. And that can be done at any age if you're willing to.
I also feel like for me, at the least, it can come and go. Like for sure, it can come and go. Because like I said, in moments when I have, prior to my awareness of all of this and like knowing that it can fully, very easily be healed naturally, because that belief definitely obviously has an impact. I noticed that in moments where I feel very confident about myself, where I feel very sure of life, my eyesight is so much better. And I rarely wear glasses at all, like I said, but in moments where it's the opposite, my eyesight is shit. It is horrible.
Well, guess what? The eyes are living organs, living tissue. For some reason, people understand that our breathing can vary, our digestion can vary, our sweating can vary depending how we feel and conditions, etc. But they expect eyesight to be exactly the same all the time. Guess what? It's not.
Right.
Like any other thing in your body. So if conditions are great, your eyesight's going to be great. If they're not, it's going to be worse. Now, what's interesting is to do this research about what's favorable for my eyesight. You cultivate that in your life. And not only are you going to see better, but you're going to be happier. So then you can use your eyes as a GPS to guide you in life. And that's fascinating.
I like that.
Now, I remembered, and we can talk about more symptoms and their emotional meaning as well. But I remember that you also asked me to talk about the inconveniences of the blockers, and we didn't do that. Shall we talk about it now?
Let's please do that. That's fine.
Remember? Okay, so again, I totally understand that you use them if you're going to be in artificial blue light, computers, LEDs, etc. Now, if you use them a little bit, but not all the time, great. If it's just about the screen and the computer, I would rather put the filters on the screen to leave the eyes free, because anytime you're wearing any kind of glass, it's doing the following things. First, it filters part of the light. In this case, it's intentional. That's what you want. But in other moments, you don't want to be filtering sunlight. As we said, you would be depriving yourself from vitamin D, among other things. Another thing that the glasses do, they inhibit blinking. We already mentioned that. They also tend to keep your eyes in a more fixed position, especially glasses that have any kind of prescription. By definition, the lens is curved and it's optimized so that you can see sharp at the distance they were designed for in the center, in the middle. So now when you want to look at different things, you're moving your head instead of moving your eyes.
That's so true. Wow. I never really noticed that until you just said that right now. How much I look like this rather than, wow.
Yes. And the eyes need movement to be in shape and to be relaxed. The more you move your eyes naturally, the better your eyesight will be. So another thing that they do, every time you look through a lens, you tend to see the world more flat. Now, you say that you have some difference between your eyes. So seeing the world flat may be already your experience, even when you don't wear glasses.
I also only have astigmatism in one eye, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a completely separate thing.
Well, we can talk about left and right and polarities and what it means when the symptoms in one eye or the other. But anyway, for people who have a relatively decent eyesight, when they look through glasses, they see the world flat. Whereas without the glasses, they would see 3D. And also, the frames make you be less aware of the peripheral vision. So you're looking in the center, moving your eyes less, and you're paying attention at the center. Guess what? We were talking about the autonomous nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. How do you know if there's danger?
Peripheral.
Absolutely. The threats always come from the sides, from behind. It's your peripheral vision that allows you to be aware of it, and then you turn your head to look at it and see what you need to do. When your field of vision is constantly artificially reduced by the frames, guess what's happening for your nervous system? You're in a state of alert almost constantly. I don't think you want to do that to yourself.
That makes a lot of sense.
Wear those whenever necessary,
contextually,
but as little as possible.
Yeah, makes sense.
My take on this is the glasses, wear them when it's important for your safety, when they're important for being functional in the moment. And the rest of the time, the less you wear them, the better. Of course, if you're going to wear your glasses less and less, you want to also be learning natural vision improvement. So you improve your eyesight as quickly as possible so that you get more and more functional and you can use the glasses even less and less. But safety first, and of course, being functional is important. Yeah.
Awesome.
We go back to more symptoms?
Yeah, if we could.
Sure. I mean,
I also want to briefly, I also want to, there's probably so many symptoms that we could get to, and we'll talk on that on the Q&A with members. But I do want to also briefly, towards the very end, touch on nutrition just a little bit, if we could. So symptoms. So
we can talk about more symptoms, but also I will do the Q&A for your community. I will be very happy to do that. And there we can roll the list and answer all the questions that people have. But also I want you and your community to be aware that we teach this free online course 4 times a year, where we go really in depth on a list of 15 plus symptoms.
Amazing.
And this is one of the things I love to talk about. So that's another possibility. I guess you'll have links and things so people can find. Of course, we'll throw that in the show notes. Yeah. So is there another symptom you'd like to talk about?
Yeah.
And then
can we talk about how, for me, astigmatism only in my right eye?
Oh, yeah. So right, left. Again, these are trends. And if you want to know for sure, one way that you can know is when the symptom is not there, then you really nailed it. And maybe you can use other approaches, like we said with the conversation with the eyes. But for most people, the trend seems to be that whatever is your dominant hand, so if you're right-handed, your right side of your body is what we would call the yang side, the side that reflects your relationship to action, projects, moving forward, and the qualities that in many cultures, traditions, social contexts are considered masculine.
So your primary hand, whatever side that is.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other side, so for most people, the left side, would be the yin side, which would be about the qualities that in a lot of cultures and contexts and societies are considered the feminine aspects. So more intuition, being in touch with your emotions, receptivity, and those kinds of things. So when you have a symptom that appears in one eye, but not the other, you need to ask yourself if the symptom is in the yang eye or the yin eye. If it appeared in childhood, it's likely that it is about challenges in your relationship with either your dad or your mom. And because nowadays there's more and more diverse kinds of families, then we could also ask the person that in the family represented authority and the person that in the family represented the nurturing.
I think I just made the connection for my entirety of my symptoms.
Okay, great.
So I'm left-handed. Mine's in my right eye. That would be my mother's side because that's my yin side. I'm estranged from my mother. I haven't spoken to her in 3.5 to 4 years.
Wow. Okay. Getting goosebumps. Okay. Phew. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know the story. I don't have details. I'm nobody to tell you what to do in relationship with your mother.
No, it just clicked for me though.
But in any case, there's some truth you need to find there. Something that's more authentic in your relationship with her.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes so much sense. Oh my gosh.
They're the windows to the soul and they're extremely precise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's also crazy going back to German medicine, and not to go off on a tangent there. There's been multiple examples of symptoms occurring related specifically to my mother's side, to a specific spot related to what was happening contextually with my mom at that time. It's crazy. It's just so fascinating how the body expresses, and the overwhelming majority of the world has no clue about whether this framework, German new medicine, the human biofield anatomy, any of them. And it's for me, there's been multiple examples that have been absolutely spot on. It's incredible.
It seems like magic. It's so precise. It's like, it's mind-blowing and eye-opening.
It is eye-opening, right? Yeah,
literally.
Great.
So if the symptom appears later in life, it could be about mom, dad. Usually they're the totems in our life, right? Yeah. But if we're talking about the yang side, it could be also other masculine figures. So very likely it's that, but it could be
a coach.
Yes, a coach, a teacher, a boss, the government, the taxis, something that represents authority in your life. It could also be a sibling that's a male. It could also be a son. It could also be a friend that's very close to your heart. But it really has to be a very important and meaningful relationship. It's not going to be someone that you cross at the elevator every other day that's going to impact your eyesight. And for the yin side, and it could also be about your projects, things that you want to do, and your will to do those projects.
This is on the yang side?
On the yang side. Yang side.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm using my right hand because
sense.
For me, that's my yang side, but for you, it would be your left.
Opposite, yeah.
And with the yin side, so it's more about the feminine qualities, we said. So it could be about mom. It could be about a sister. It could be about a female partner. It could be about a daughter. It could be about a female friend, but that's someone really close to your heart. It could be also about allowing yourself to feel your own emotions. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of the themes. And well, in your case, you clicked immediately. Sometimes people need a little bit of time or exploration.
Well, once I learned that, because for me, I was thinking of astigmatism, and I'm not trying to make this whole episode about me. Hopefully this is contextually helpful for other people too. The last thing I'll say on this is for me, I was thinking along what are dreams, things that I wanted to do in my life that I wasn't able to do related to the astigmatism. But once learning about the yin yang and related to the mother/father side, it all clicked okay, that's absolutely what the astigmatism is, because I don't want to be estranged from my mom. And I've talked about that openly on other podcast episodes. So that's,
If I may, I would like to talk about retinal detachment.
Yes,
it's
please.
It's not a very, very common symptom, but when it happens, it's really dramatic. You could lose eyesight instantly if you don't take care of it. There needs to be surgery to reattach the retina. I mean, there's of course degrees of how bad it can be. But if the retina detaches, you really need first an intervention to put again the tissue of the retina next to the tissue that actually nourishes it. Otherwise, you risk being blind. And then afterwards, you can practice natural vision improvement. It will help your recovery. You'll recover faster. But in terms of the emotional aspect, retinal detachment happens when people feel abruptly detached from someone they love.
Wow.
And we have a lot of people get retinal detachment when their elders die. like you're in your 50s, or people live longer and longer, and your dad or your mom are in your 60s and your dad or your mom dies, that's for a lot of people the moment where they get the retinal detachment. It could also be like a divorce or really a bad breakup, or someone that goes to live very far in the other side of the planet and you feel like you've lost them. With retinal detachment, so it's a combination both of someone really close to your heart, someone that you really care deeply for, and that it feels like the relationship has been ripped. So the person was really not ready for that loss. And the better you allow yourself to do the grieving process or to repair the relationship, also the more possibilities you have to heal faster and better. Yeah. And if I may go into blindness, there's a story that touches me very much. You could watch the film. The film is called Ray. It's about the life of Ray Charles. And so we also know about Stevie Wonder. They're kind of the two famous blind musicians, right? Ray Charles became blind after he saw his younger brother die in front of his very eyes, drowning. And he was kind of held accountable, guilty for that happening. And they were like 4 and 2. The poor guy, there's not much that he could do or understand in that situation. Right. But in the dramatic terror of having a 2-year-old boy die drowning, well, the adults immediately reacted like, you were there, you were with your brother. Well, how come you didn't help him? La, la, la. And this story tortured him all his life. Every time he would feel tortured about the loss of his brother, his eyesight and his eyes would get worse and worse. So people who experience being blind, there's a very big pain behind that needs to be addressed for them to be able to see again. And as amazing and incredible it may sound, we also have cases of people who came blind to us and they have recovered to various degrees, to the level that they accept to do the work. And part of it is habits, we said exercise, etc. And part of it, very important part, handling the emotional aspect.
Which I'd imagine for many of these people is a forgiveness of self and other at a deep level. And
it's life-changing in so many ways when they actually can do it. I'm talking about this, I'm getting goosebumps as I speak.
I'm getting like emotional. My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If we could just briefly cover nutrition in like 5 minutes, because I know we've been going for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. So everybody knows that if you eat well, you have a better health. And that's true also for the eyesight. The eyes are the windows to the soul, but they're also the windows to the liver and the pancreas. When the pancreas and the liver are under stress, one of the places where you notice more quickly is with eyesight. So when your eyesight declines, it could be also an indicator that you need to care for your liver and your pancreas. And while we could talk about carrots, and carrots are good for your eyesight, they are, okay? All the fruits and vegetables that have bright colors are good for your eyesight. While having good nutrition is good for your eyesight, what people don't talk about enough is about what toxicity does to your eyesight. And it's actually even more important. So not putting toxicity in your body and detox for your body is going to do so good for your eyesight. Of course, if you want to eat right, that's going to be very good as well.
I know this wasn't the case with Kelly. She actually had the opposite experience, but Dr. Andy Kaufman, who I'm also really good friends with, did a 26 or 27 day water fast. And he reversed his eyesight prescription by 3 prescriptions. So meaning that he went 3 prescriptions back to what he was wearing in university and college. So, I mean, for not all, but for some people, water fast can be extremely detoxifying. I know in my experience, I went into my water fast with some physical pain that I was dealing with. And also, I didn't expect this. My armpits, I had rashes that went from like my elbow all the way down to my obliques on both sides. and my skin was clear, and my whites of my eyes were clearer than they'd ever been towards the end of the 15-day fast.
So we're talking detox. There's a lot of strategies.
Yeah, you don't have to do a water fast. I was just bringing that up as an example. Yeah.
Some people, intermittent fasting may be good for them, or fasting for 3 days once in a while could be good.
Forest bathing.
Forest bathing is amazing for many reasons. Starting your day with warm water instead of coffee. Maybe you can have the cup of coffee if that's what you drink a bit later. I love my coffee. Yes. I mean, if you love coffee, please make yourself happy. Yeah. But if you start the day with warm water, and you could, like some kind of herbal tea, you could put lemon in it, or ginger or thyme. I'm talking about different possibilities for detox. If you hate, or green tea is also good. If you hate those things, well, you have other strategies. Really, it's important that you do the things that make you feel good, because you're going to stick with them, and they're also good for your health. Learn to listen to your body. So artichokes are very good for detox of the liver. If you would have to eat the artichokes, it would be kilos and kilos and kilos. So maybe you want to use the extract. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll go faster. So probably you've heard about what are called the white poisons: sugar, salt, like... now I'm forgetting all the processed wheat flours.
Wheat flour,
exactly.
Okay.
And the dairy, a lot of people don't take dairy all that well. Some do, and a lot of people don't. So I'm not telling you to never eat any of this, but do your best to kind of reduce them.
Got it.
More things that we can say. One that I actually love and that I do as much as I can is saltwater baths.
Okay.
Nowadays, a lot of houses don't have bathtubs anymore. They only have showers. Mm-hmm. And if you have a bathtub, or you could buy a bathtub that some people buy also for like going into cold baths or things like that. So there's workarounds if you don't have a bathtub at home. So prepare a bath with the water as warm as is comfortable for you, and put inside 2 kilos of water. It's about 20 grams of water per liter. I'm sorry, I'm talking metric system.
The metric system also makes way more sense.
Like in the comments, we can put the conversions or something. The proportion is 20 grams of salt per liter of water.
Okay.
And the equivalent in a big bathtub. So if you can put your whole body in the bathtub with the proportion of water with warm water, several things happen. First, your muscles relax. And we were saying that for your eye muscles to relax, the body as a whole needs to be relaxed, because there's these connections. Second, because of the heat, the pores of the skin open. And third, because of the amount of salt in the water, the toxins go naturally outside by osmosis. Yeah. So it's a very good detox that's extremely pleasant, and it doesn't require you to be heroic.
I feel like you're in a spa.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yes. So I love to do that one.
That's good.
Personally. Now, if you don't have a bathtub, you could also do that with your feet. Mm-hmm. So you have a smaller container, you keep the proportion of salt to the water. It won't relax all your body, but it also does a quite good deal of detox. And you could do that even, I don't know, while you're watching TV or
doing eye exercises.
But I mean, you can combine it with other activities or other relaxing activities. And if you're going to do the bath, you could optimize it by having a nice scent, nice music, a candlelight, and then you're also relaxing into it and giving yourself a treat. And that's important. And that's very important, even more so for people who have presbyopia. The need for reading glasses, we didn't talk about that one. People who develop the need for reading glasses, and that's more and more common earlier and earlier in our societies, because we feel that we're out of the game sooner and sooner. The emotional aspect is loss of self-worth.
Wow.
With presbyopia. And so you start looking to the past as the best time in your life. And you start speaking like, in my times, this or that. Guess what? If you're alive, your times are now too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to make your present and your future exciting and fun. And people who develop presbyopia, and that's more common in women, because they develop this kind of lack of self-worth, then the main characters are everybody else. So they start caring for the kids and their spouses and their parents and the neighbor. And they take care of everyone else except them.
Wow.
So to heal from presbyopia, you need to bring the energy back to you and treat yourself as the person that you're the most in love with. So those saltwater baths are amazing for everybody and for people with presbyopia in particular, if you like a bath, like a treat. But that would be true for anything. I mean, if you've developed presbyopia and you wanted to paint all your life, doesn't matter if you're going to be a professional painter and expose at the Met, but take at least some time per week to make sure that you go painting. Yeah. So that's also important. Anyway, you wanted to talk about nutrition. We ended up talking about chemical aspects that are not actually about food. But if you want that we speak about food, probably you have people that you've interviewed that go very detailed into, there's so many aspects, possibilities for diets like keto and paleo and plenty of things.
I'd also imagine like in general, it's just eat real food and eat organic.
Absolutely. What I would say is eat fresh, local, organic. Exactly. When you're eating local, you're eating seasonal. And so because it's seasonal, what you're eating is going to have the best nutrients that you can get, and they're adapted to where you are at the time of the year that you are. And if you can eat live, like sprouts, that's also very good. If you're having a good proportion of vegetables and fruits in your diet, that's also going to be very good. But for eyesight, omega-3 is important too. So you want to have some fish. And magnesium and vitamin B is also very important. So if you're a vegetarian or vegan and you're not eating meat and eggs, make sure that you're getting vitamin B and magnesium. So chocolate, for example, but it's better if it's dark, doesn't have all that much sugar. Vitamin B you can find in, I need to find the word in English for it, wheat germ and beer yeast.
Okay.
Things that you can put in salads and soups.
Yeah.
Has vitamin B.
Did you just endorse eating chocolate then? So I can, eating chocolate is good?
Eating chocolate is good.
Okay, I'm going to take that and run with it.
It's good to have a, like 70%, 80%, like the higher percentage of cacao.
Yeah. I eat dark chocolate.
Yes,
that's good.
Yeah, dark chocolate. Yeah. Anyway, we could get more detail and talk about lutein and zeaxanthin and things like that. But as you said, if you eat local, fresh, or local seasonal, fresh, organic, and you make sure that there's vegetables, fruits, protein in whatever form you accept it, you should be good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I said before we clicked record, I don't imagine that we'll go over 2.5 hours, but here we are. We went like 3 hours.
I completely lost track of time.
I'm so sorry for anyone listening.
Baby. We can talk
more.
Of
course. Oh no, we could go on for even longer. Like there's still stuff that we didn't cover at all.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I always say that to guests too. Like, look, this podcast, the average length is like 2 hours and 50 minutes. And there's been multiple times I'm like, I don't think we'll go over 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes. And then I always end up just having awesome conversations with awesome people. And this was just another example. This was an incredibly fascinating topic. And I think it's so cool how this is just another example for me, because I've come to the conclusion that the overwhelming majority of physical, mental symptoms that we experience have some emotional underpinning to them. And this is just another example of that.
Yeah. And we were talking about this with Rebecca and Simon from your team as we were coming from the airport. They were so kind to go and pick me up. That's lovely.
You, Rebecca.
Thank you so much.
Simon.
That as you increase your scope, you understand more of how your health works. Like if you look just at the eye, which is basically what ophthalmologists and optometrists do, there's a level of understanding that is also useful if the tissues are not working well and the lens is not working well. But actually, eyesight doesn't happen in the eye. It happens in the brain. So even if you just take one step of considering the whole experience of seeing, and you consider we're still at the biological level, but consider the whole process of seeing how it happens. If you involve the brain into the function of seeing, you're going to be better off already. Now, the eye and the brain are not isolated in the body. And the eye has muscles and receives oxygen through the circulation system and has water and all the things we said. If you take into account the various aspects of how the eye functions, you need to be interested in breathing, in circulation, in nutrition, in posture. And we're still just talking at the physical level biology. Now, If you start talking about emotions, and we know more and more how emotions impact the human health and the immune system, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if you start talking about emotions, you need to start talking about relationships and about life course and about society. And none of this is yet woo. But so you start involving not just biology, but psychology and sociology and anthropology and history. You understand a lot more about how eyesight health works. And there's more and more dimensions. There's some dimensions that we haven't even spoken about this time. Anyway, I know people, and I know that you know people too, that are able to see with their eyes covered.
Yep.
So I haven't learned it myself.
Amazing.
I don't find... I don't put myself to it as a big priority. So I tell myself that I don't find the time to practice. So I haven't learned the skill. But I know children and adults that you can cover them with a blindfold in a room that's dark, and they can read with their eyes, with their feet. They can read what's behind.
Yep.
They develop the vision of things that aren't in the room. So we have capacities that are absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And that we can go in the rabbit hole as far as we're interested to go.
Amen. And I think we're just scratching the surface on what we're really capable of. It's incredible. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a pioneer in this. This has been incredible. And thank you to Kelly and also to Rebecca for encouraging me to bring Ainhoa on. And this has been amazing. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. It was really a true pleasure speaking with you for this long, however long it has been. And thank you for all the coincidences. Kelly Brogan, that was a student of the program, the ClearSight method, and also brought me to her podcast, and Rebecca that made the connection. Thank you also for having me. And I hope that this opens some eyes and some minds, and that it will allow for a lot more people to see clearly within and without.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.